Chapter 927. Right now he could not even sleep well. His mind was filled with Muyaja's cold voice. Thinking of that hair-raising warning, he felt even more uneasy. He hurriedly picked up the phone and called his son, who had caused so much trouble for him. As soon as the call was connected, he vented all his anger on him. "Where are you now? Come over here." On the other end, Du Jiayan was at an entertainment clubhouse. The environment was noisy. Tonight's class banquet had embarrassed him, so under Huang Lily's suggestion, he invited a group of classmates to the clubhouse to have fun. Du Jiayan, who was having a good time at the clubhouse, picked up the call a little late. The moment he picked up, he heard his father's anxious roar. Confused, he asked blankly, "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Since young, Du Boxiong had doted on him. Relying on his mother's doting, never once did he yell at him, or even lay a finger on him. Now that he heard this sudden outburst of anger, he was instantly dumbfounded. Du Boxiong heard the noisy environment on the other end. This lad still had the mood to fool around outside at such a critical time. He said unhappily, "What kind of good thing did you get into for me? Get back home now. I have something to ask you." Good thing? What good thing? He hadn't done anything good recently. He had only done some harmless bad things. However, he was still in the middle of singing and had not enjoyed himself to the fullest. He was a little indignant that he had to go back now. Du Jiayan thought about it and decided to use his old trick to coax his father. "Dad, can't we go later? I'm still having fun with my friends. We're only in the middle of it." Bang! He seemed to hear the sound of something heavily hitting the table. It was ear-piercing and exuded a strong murderous aura. Du Jiayan was so shocked that his breathing stopped. He did not dare to continue speaking. He knew that Du Boxiong was angry. Very angry too. "I don't care what happened. Anyway, I'm only giving you 20 minutes. Get back home now. If I don't see you in 20 minutes, I won't be polite to you." With that, he hung up the phone. Du Jiayan was dumbfounded as he held the phone. He blinked his eyes in bewilderment and hung up gloomily. Seeing this, Huang Lily asked carefully. Du Jiayan snapped, "How would I know what happened? My dad told me to rush back." "Ah, this was only the beginning. I'm not high yet." Huang Lily was reluctant to part with him. "What's there to play? You know my dad's temper. Once he loses his temper, it's out of control. Hurry up and go back." Thus, the two of them didn't even have time to say goodbye to their friends. They rushed out of the house, hailed a taxi, and sped all the way home. Even though he did not know what was going on, he was still on tenterhooks. He had seen how Du Boxiong looked when he was angry. It was terrifying. Now that he had to face it, he really couldn't take it. He practically sprinted all the way home. Leaving Huang Lily in the living room, he walked into the study room and opened the door. He saw Du Boxiong pacing back and forth in front of the window with his hands behind his back, looking furious. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he turned around abruptly and swept a pair of sharp eyes at him. Chapter 928. Now that he had to face it, he really could not take it. He practically sprinted all the way into the house, leaving Huang Lily in the living room. Walking into the study, he pushed open the door and saw Du Boxiong pacing back and forth in front of the window with his hands behind his back, looking furious. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he abruptly turned his head and swept a pair of sharp eyes at him. Du Jiayan was instantly shocked by this gaze, and took a few steps back as a layer of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He shrunk his shoulders in trepidation and stammered, "Dad, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking for me?" Du Boxiong glanced at him again before walking to the table and sitting down. Seeing that his son seemed to be frightened out of his wits, he seemed to realize that he had lost control of his emotions. Looking at his precious son, he could not help but suppress his anger and temper. He knocked on the table and said in a low voice, "Sit down." Du Jiayan furrowed his brows and slowly sat down at the table. He sighed helplessly and asked coldly, "Jiayan, what have you done to offend someone these few days?" "Offend? Who did I offend?" Du Jiayan cocked a brow. He did not think too much of it and shook his head with certainty. "Nothing. Tell me the truth." Du Boxiong frowned, his tone hardening. Du Jiayan felt aggrieved. "Dad, I really didn't. Do I look like the kind of person to stir up trouble?" What's wrong with you? It's as if you've eaten explosives. You're denouncing me the moment I come back. Seeing his father's increasingly ashen face, Du Jian's voice became softer and softer. Eaten explosives? You're pushing your dad to his death. He shouted. What did I do? I didn't do anything. You didn't do anything? You didn't do anything. Yet that person called me. How did you offend that person? Du Jian was getting more and more confused. What do you mean by that person? Who is that person? Dad, even if you want to blame me, you have to let me know clearly. Okay. Then, I'll let you know clearly. Du Boishiong picked up his teacup and gulped down a few mouthfuls. He then sighed and asked with a frown, Jian, how did you anger Master Mu? Master Mu. Du Jian raised his brow strangely. His heart. However, he didn't dare to admit it. And which Master Mu? Du Boishiong lowered his voice. Dishing Financial Group CEO Muyaja. Yes, you didn't offend him, but you bullied his people. Aren't you embarrassing him? His people. Du Jian had a bad feeling about this. Could it be that his father knew everything? Who is it? He asked knowingly, but did not dare to say it out loud. Chapter 929. Du Jian was a little frightened, but facing his father's frightening gaze, he subconsciously wanted to cover up the good deed he had done out of guilt. Thus he softly and perfunctorily said, Dad, I really don't know any young Master Mu. I don't care what grudges you have with young Master Mu, nor what you've done to him or what he's done to you. In any case, you'd better settle this matter properly. Hurry up and apologize to him properly. Just as he finished speaking, Du Jian raised his voice in disbelief. Dad, what did that young Master Mu do to you? You seem to have eaten explosives. Du Boishiong was already in a fit of anger. Seeing that his son was not giving him a way out, his anger flared up again. He was so angry that he wished he could give him a tight slap. Alas, this was his son whom he had doted on since young. His hand was raised high, and if he really wanted to slap him, he really did not know how to do it. Clenching his hand into a fist, he slammed it on the table. The table groaned in pain as if it were about to crack. Du Jian jumped in fright, and was tongue-tied as he stood rooted to the spot. He had never seen his father treat him so fiercely. He guessed that something must have happened, so he told him everything in detail. After saying that, he observed his father's expression and carefully asked, Dad, I really don't know his identity. If I did, would I have offended him like this? Also, what happened? Because you offended young Master Mu. The Mu Group's real estate company canceled my case. Recalling Muyaja's cold and heartless voice, he gritted his teeth in hatred and said angrily, Aren't you digging a grave for our whole family? Is young Master Mu someone you can afford to offend? Are you really tired of living? It's fine if you're tired of living, but are you planning to drag the whole family into the fire pit? Du Jian was a little disapproving. Isn't it just the Mu family? No matter how big the world is, can it be bigger than the emperor? I've really never seen the emperor before, but in the capital, the Mu family is really a well-known figure. Du Jian was stunned. Du Boishiong coldly glanced at her and said in a deep voice, The Mu family's business is huge, and they have businesses all over the world. No one knew how vast the Mu Group's empire was. They only knew that the Mu family's assets were the driving force of the entire financial world, and the core of the entire Asia's economy. What's even more frightening is that the Mu family's connections are very extensive. From the government to the government, there are people from the Mu family everywhere, not to mention the inextricable connections in other fields. Even in Beijing, the mayor had to give young Master Mu some face, let alone your old man. Let me tell you, whether you play in the open or in the dark, you are seeking your own death by going against Muyaja. You have picked the wrong opponent. You don't even know how you died. How ugly was his death? Du Jian's lips twitched stiffly as he asked in disbelief. Is it really that exaggerated? Dad. Chapter 930. It doesn't matter who you bully, but you can't bully Master Mu. Do you understand? I still want to live for a few more years. It wasn't easy for me to climb to where I am today. Can't you give me a way out? Du Jian's expression was complicated when he heard this. He opened his mouth in a daze, still somewhat doubtful. Dad, is that Muyaja really that scary? I don't know how powerful the Muse are. I only know that if he steps on me, my entire foundation will be destroyed. Du Jiayin fell silent. After taking a shower, Muyaja walked to the two little lads' bedroom. When he pushed open the door, the bedroom was warm. The electric fan was blowing, and the air conditioner was not turned on. The two little lads were covered with a blanket each, and were already asleep. Yu Yu's sleeping posture was considered elegant, but Xiao Chen's sleeping posture was still as rude as usual. One of his legs was hanging on Yu Yu's body as he slept soundly. Muyaja walked over and saw Yu Yu frowning slightly. Even though he was asleep, his face seemed to be full of disdain. Xiao Chen was probably too restless in his sleep, so the two lads tossed and turned for a while before falling asleep. He reached out and pinched the little lad's brows until the crease between his brows was flattened. Then he lowered his eyes and planted a kiss on his forehead. This was something he had always wanted to do. In the past, when he was at the Mu residence, he would return home later when Xiao Chen was already asleep. He would then go to his room and give him a good-night kiss. Other than going on business trips, he would do it almost every day. However, Yu Yu's good-night kiss seemed to be 7 years late. It was probably not too late, right? Muyaja rubbed his hair dotingly and walked to Xiao Chen's side to kiss his forehead before leaving. After the door closed, Yu Yu opened his eyes groggily. He felt as if a tall figure had come to his window, kissed his forehead, and then left. Was it Daddy? When Muyaja walked into the bedroom, Yin Shirshir was surprisingly awake. She leaned against the headboard with heavy eyelids. When she saw him enter the room, she immediately pulled up the blanket and covered herself tightly. He closed the door. Not asleep yet? Yin Shirshir nodded absent-mindedly. I'm waiting for you. Muyaja was stunned for a moment before his lips curled into a faint smile as warmth filled his heart. On the other side, he calmly took off his pajamas and said in a deep voice, If you're tired in the future, you can sleep first. You don't have to wait for me. After taking off his pajamas, his muscular body was exposed to the air. His chiseled chest, well-defined muscles, and the perfect curve of his lower abdomen. It was so firm that there was no excess fat at all. It was comparable to a top model's body. Yin Shirshir did not care about what he said. The moment she opened the door, all she could think about was admiring his body. Her gaze was a little dazed. Muyaja was a shrewd person. When he saw her gaze, he knew what she was thinking. He smiled and asked, Have you seen enough? Yin Shirshir finally came back to her senses. She licked her pink lips and nodded. I've seen enough. Muyaja asked again, Do you want to touch it again? He was openly behaving like a hooligan. Yin Shirshir shook her head decisively and said sourly, What's so great about having a good body? Chapter 931. You're not allowed. He sat by the bed and rejected her without thinking. Yin Shirshir furrowed her brows. Why? You're already so skinny. If you lose any more weight, you'll turn into a skeleton spirit. Yin Shirshir said pitifully, I'll look better if I'm skinnier. I'll look more photogenic if I'm skinnier. So what? Hugging her made him uncomfortable. She still had to have some meat on her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to fill his arms. Yin Shirshir said, I feel that I've gained a little weight recently. Humph. Tell me, if I get fatter, will I become a pig? Muyaja said calmly. You don't have to wait until then. You're already as stupid as a pig now. That one sentence was like 1,000 arrows piercing through her heart. Yin Shirshir was very hurt. The lights in the bedroom suddenly went out. Muyaja covered himself with the blanket. Yin Shirshir was stunned. In the darkness, she couldn't see anything clearly. She had been losing a lot of nutrients since she was young. As a result, she had severe night blindness and was very afraid of the dark. It was also from a very young age that she stayed at home alone, facing the darkness alone. She was so afraid that she hid under the blanket. It was also because of this that she developed a bad sleeping habit. Her hands groped in the direction of Muyaja. Hey Muyaja. You. Her hand was suddenly held tightly by a warm palm. With a strong pull, she was embraced by a pair of arms into a broad chest. His faint voice came from above. I'm here. It's time to sleep. Behave yourself. Am I very restless when I sleep? Yin Shirshir said angrily. Your sleeping posture is very indecent. You're just like a koala bear. Yin Shirshir was speechless. Muyaja pulled her into his arms and locked his arms. He smiled and said, Go to sleep. Yin Shirshir blushed and mumbled awkwardly. She gently closed her eyes and fell asleep after a while. Muyaja gently stroked her hair, pursed his lips, and planted a light kiss on her forehead. The next day, Yin Shirshir woke up early. Muyaja was still sleeping, so she tucked him in. It was rare for him to have a day off, so she wanted him to sleep a little longer. She tiptoed to the bathroom, tidied herself up, and set off for the set. When she was about to leave, she received several missed calls from unknown numbers. She pursed her lips but did not return them. She was in a rush to get to the set, so she ignored them. After the elevator scare that day, Mushi exposed the hotel on the internet, which immediately led to accusations from the netizens. At the same time, it also revealed that the hotel often had people stuffing flirtatious little cards, so privacy was not guaranteed and so on. The hotel was a chain of express hotels. The general manager of the hotel specially opened a Weibo account and stood up to apologize, but it still couldn't calm the anger of the netizens. What a joke! Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir were trapped in the elevator, and the video was exposed on the internet. This caused the fans of Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir to join forces to suppress them. In short, the outcome was tragic enough. The hotel manager wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. After a while, the commotion died down. Of course, this was all in the future. She went back to filming. After some adjustments, Yin Shirshir recovered to her best state. On this day, she received a mysterious gift. It was a Mercedes-Benz nanny van. When Qinzhou handed her the keys to the nanny van, she was surprised. What's this? Guess. She carefully looked at the Mercedes-Benz logo on the car key, and was a little puzzled. Mercedes-Benz? Qinzhou said. A nanny van. Chapter 932. I can't afford to give such a big gift. Then who gave it to you? Qinzhou looked askance at her, his eyes unreadable. Yin Shirshir probed carefully. Muyaja? Who else could it be? This isn't very appropriate. Yin Shirshir felt a little guilty. In the production team, Yangmi and Gu Xingze both had nanny vans. In the industry, a celebrity having a nanny van seemed to be a symbol of status. There was a nanny van. After filming, they could sit in the nanny van and rest. Previously, Yin Bingqing also had one. However, even though she had a nanny van, she still had to fight for Yin Shirshir's resting room. However, as a newbie who had just debuted and already had her own nanny van, it was inevitable that she would be gossiped about. What are you afraid of? Who dares to gossip about you? They'll all be banned. Yin Shirshir was amused by his bold attitude. Qinzhou briefly explained the situation to her. It turned out that Muyaja was afraid that she would be tired from filming and would not be able to rest well, so he bought a nanny van for her. The nanny van was an RV. The car was parked in the production team's parking lot. Qinzhou brought Yin Shirshir to take a look. The nanny van was luxurious, with a bathroom, living room, TV, video, refrigerator, dressing table, and other facilities. Yin Shirshir did not show it on her face, but she felt sweet inside. He was actually so considerate for her, probably because he was afraid that she would be too tired from filming. In the afternoon, Yin Shirshir had just finished filming when Mushi looked for her, saying that someone was looking for her outside the production team. Who is it? Mushi shook her head. How could she know them? She only said, I don't know them. It's a man and a woman. They couldn't get into the production team, so they got someone to pass a message that they have something important to discuss with you. Coincidentally, she had just finished filming. Since someone was looking for her, it should be something important. Walking out of the set, Yin Shirshir saw Du Jiayan and Huang Lili standing at the entrance from afar. When they saw her, their faces immediately lit up with flattering smiles. This smile was too flattering, too brilliant, and had the intention of currying favor with him. As soon as she saw her, Huang Lili immediately approached her and handed her a bottle of lemonade. She then rubbed her palms together. Shirshir, you must be tired from filming. Have some water first. Yin Shirshir lowered her head and glanced at the water in her hand. She was startled at first. This bottle of water was of a good brand, and it was especially expensive. It probably cost more than 10 yuan per bottle. He was obviously trying to please her. But if he ignored her, he would be hiding evil intentions, wouldn't he? Thus, without even looking at it, she casually threw it into the trash can and said calmly, "Sorry, I'm afraid it's poisonous." The smile on Huang Lily's face froze, but she didn't say anything. She just said, "Look at you. What are you talking about? How could there be poison in the water? Sure, you really like to joke. How did you find this place?" Yin Shishi's face was a little wary. Ever since the class reunion, she had received many messages from her classmates. Out of courtesy, she had also added them to the WeChat group. The WeChat group had already kicked Huang Lily out. As for what happened that day, everyone had a tacit understanding and didn't mention a word about it. They were also overly enthusiastic toward her. It's probably what happened that day, Yin Shishi guessed. Chapter 933. Yin Shishi was on high alert. What are you guys doing? Is there something you can't say here? She felt that these two were up to no good. Du Jiayan in particular had previously been condescending toward her, but now he was extremely enthusiastic. His fawning face in particular made her even more vigilant. Don't worry, we don't have any other intentions. Don't think too much. Huang Lily said softly. Actually, it's because something happened at home. You should know. I don't know. Yin Shishi then added. I don't think it's anything important. I still have scenes to shoot, so I'll take my leave first. With that, she turned to leave. Seeing this, Du Jiayan panicked and hurried forward to stop her. In a moment of desperation, he grabbed her arm. Yin Shishi only felt the area he touched burning, and immediately swatted his hand away. What are you doing? Don't get touchy. Sorry for the offense. Du Jiayan smiled obsequiously. Sure, I've asked around at the set. You finished filming today. He had rushed to the set earlier and handed out a few cigarettes to the security guard at the entrance. He only dared to look for Yin Shishi after knowing that she had finished filming. Yin Shishi narrowed her eyes. Seeing them like this, it seemed that something had really happened. She thought for a moment. Since it was broad daylight and they were at the entrance of the film set, they couldn't do anything to her. Thus she said, I'm very busy. If you have something to say, don't drag it out. Then, shall we find a quiet place? Follow me. Yin Shishi turned around and walked toward the limousine. Huang Lily and Du Jiayan exchanged glances before following closely behind. However, when they saw Yin Shishi get into a limousine, they were both surprised and envious. What a grand limousine. This car must cost a few million yuan, right? Her heart was filled with jealousy and envy. Yin Shishi was no longer the same as before. People really could not be compared to each other. She looked at Du Jiayan beside her, and then thought of Wuxia whom she had met that day. They were both boyfriends, so why was there such a huge difference? On second thought, Yin Shishi was from the entertainment industry. Rich and powerful families were particular about this. An actress like her would only be favored for a short period of time. Could it be that she could marry into a wealthy family and have a meteoric rise? The rich and powerful looked down on actors and actresses in the entertainment industry. With this thought in mind, she followed Du Jiayan into the RV. Yin Shishi poured a cup of tea for each of them. When the three of them sat down, she went straight to the point. If you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. Since she had already said so, he was naturally more than happy to oblige. Hence he said, it's like this. That day, during the class reunion, you know it too. Is there some misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? Yin Shishi raised her eyebrows. Anyway, no matter what the misunderstanding is, it's all in the past, isn't it? Sure, I didn't mean to offend you. You can say that I'm blind, or that I'm measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Isn't it all in the past? Isn't it good to let bygones be bygones? His tone was very sincere, and his face was full of reverence. Yin Shishi was a little confused by his words. Is there anything you can't say clearly? I really don't understand what you're saying. Chapter 934. Du Jiayan recounted the incident in detail. It turned out that, since that day at the class reunion, Du Jiayan and Huang Lily's actions had clearly offended Wuxia. He did not say anything because in his eyes, small fries like Du Jiayan and Huang Lili were not worthy of his condemnation. Take the simplest example. If a mad dog barked at you by the roadside, would you bite it back? Just because he did not say anything did not mean that he would let it go. However, the things they had said and done had made him unhappy. Since he was unhappy, then he had to do something to make them unhappy as well. This was his character. On the surface, he did not say anything, but behind his back, he could flatten the Du family's foundation with just a finger. It was unknown what methods Wuxia used, but after that day, the Du family's projects with the Mu group were all cancelled. The cooperation was written in black and white. This matter was considered a breach of contract by the Muse, so the Du family could bring the contract to their doorstep. However, did he dare to? With the Mu group's powerful background, they could cover the sky with one hand in the capital. Where could he go to sue? Be it in the legal world, the political world, or even the Supreme Court, there were people from the Muse. The Muse had openly breached the contract and slapped them in the face, but did Du Boishiong dare to sue? He did not even dare to let out a fart. Cancel it. So be it. He still had other projects on hand. Although the cases that he had worked with Mu Group were lucrative, since his son had offended them, Du Boishiong could only grit his teeth and swallow his pride even if he was unwilling to do so. Fine, I'll admit it. What else could he do? Go against the Muse? Alas, he did not expect things to be so simple. Wuxia's methods were swift and decisive. He had always been ruthless. Since he had made up his mind to do something, he would not give up until he forced the other party into a dead end. The next day, news came that the boss, who had always been on good terms with Du Boishiong, had committed suicide by jumping off a building. Suicide by jumping off a building. Why did something like this happen at such a critical juncture? Du Boishiong was terrified when he thought about it. He knew very well that this matter was definitely related to the Mu Group. This was not the end of it. Several projects that he had worked with had either been maliciously acquired or exposed to scandals of collusion between officials and businessmen. One of the project's legal representative, who had worked closely with the Du family, was suspected of corruption and bribery. The amount of money involved was so large that even the central government was involved in the investigation. Du Boishiong's heart skipped a beat. In order to protect himself, he had no choice but to stop the development of the project. The unforeseen events of the past few days had caused Du Boishiong to be unable to sleep soundly. His entire being was in a trance. Due to various problems, all the cases on hand had been interrupted. How could there be such a coincidence? Why didn't it happen earlier or later? Why did it have to happen now? It was obvious that someone was behind all of this. Was the Mu Group trying to force him into a dead end? Even if the contract was terminated, the losses caused by the stagnation of the project were in the millions every day. Millions? What kind of concept was that? In just a few days, he was heavily in debt. If this continued, the Du family would be completely finished. Chapter 935. He was well aware that the Mu family was making things difficult for him. Having been in the capital for so many years, he had accumulated some connections, but at this critical juncture, he could not use them at all. He went to seek an audience, but the other party refused to see him. What a joke! Who would dare to be related to him at this time? Did he want to be taught a lesson? Du Boishiong was mentally and physically exhausted. Due to his exhaustion, he had a heart attack and was now lying in the hospital. Yin Shirshir glanced at him, and then at Huang Lili. Both of them looked haggard. When it came to emotional parts, they were in tears. This was especially so for Du Jiayan, who had watched helplessly as the Du family's great foundation was destroyed in his hands. His father's foundation, which had been built over half of his life, was destroyed with just a few words from Wuxia. He blamed himself endlessly. Naturally, he was afraid and hated Yin Shirshir. At the same time, he knew how important this woman was in Wuxia's heart. Even if he hated her to the core, he did not dare to offend her. Yin Shirshir listened without any change in her expression, but she was also sighing in her heart. She didn't know anything about these things. However, she was also a little dazed. She did not expect that Wuxia could destroy the Du family with just a few words. This was too exaggerated. However, this was the truth. Yin Shirshir said in a low voice, Actually, you're asking the wrong person, right? I can't decide the life and death of the Du family. I don't have the ability to do so. But you can definitely help us, right? Du Jiayan looked worried. He seemed to have aged a few years overnight, with a few strands of white hair growing on his head. Huang Lili remained silent at the side. In fact, when the Du family got into trouble, she already had thoughts of retreating. Husband and wife were birds in the same forest, but when faced with a disaster, they flew away separately. Moreover, she and Du Jiayan were not married yet. With such a thing happening to the Du family, she naturally wanted to leave unscathed and find another branch. However, Du Jiayan did not know what she was thinking. He threatened that if she dared to abandon him at this critical juncture, he would kill her. Huang Lili was scared and didn't dare to do it anymore. Du Jiayan was depressed, and his resentment toward Huang Lili had reached its peak. He had always been concerned about his reputation, and he loved Huang Lili very much. He used to be a playboy, but when he met Huang Lili, he wanted to settle down and start a family. But who would have thought that a class reunion would bring him such a calamity? His current mental state was already on the verge of collapse. After experiencing all these things, he suddenly became mature overnight. He also knew that he was insensible and had brought a devastating disaster to his family. Seeing Yin Shirshir biting her lips and remaining silent, he suddenly made up his mind and knelt on the ground with a plop. His actions shocked Huang Lili. She immediately felt embarrassed. She was already so down and out in front of Yin Shirshir, but he still knelt down in front of her. Where was she supposed to put her face? Chapter 936. He looked up and cried, "I don't care what happens to me. If you still hate me, I'll do anything you want me to do. If you want me to do it, I'll even pay with my life. Still, I beg you, let my family off." Huang Lili felt utterly humiliated. She covered her face and did not know what to do. Yin Shirshir appeared calm on the surface, but deep down, she sympathized with him. "You don't have to kneel before me. I don't hate you." "Really?" He looked up, still doubtful. Yin Shirshir nodded. He wasn't the one who was in the wrong. She wasn't so petty as to force him into a dead end just because of a few words. Leave some leeway in everything and leave a way out for everyone. She had always believed in this saying. If this was a punishment, then it was enough. It should end here. Then, are you willing to plead for the Du family? His eyes were misty. "I'll try. Do you mean that you've forgiven me?" With a sincere look on his face, he repeatedly explained, "Yin Shirshir, I really know my mistake. Please forgive me, all right?" "All right. Quickly get up." Yin Shirshir said helplessly. Only then did he dare to get up, his face finally looking more relaxed. Seeing that Yin Shirshir was willing to relent, Huang Lili felt more at ease. Yin Shirshir suddenly said, "Don't misunderstand. I'm only forgiving him, not you." That was because some mistakes could never be forgiven. Huang Lili was stunned by her words. She wanted to say something, but Yin Shirshir had already gotten up. "All right. I'll think of a way. You guys can go back." With that, she alighted from the limousine. She left behind a dazed Huang Lili and Du Jiayan. Jiayan, what did she mean by that? Du Jiayan wiped his tears, glanced at her, and snorted. "Don't you know what she said?" When Yin Shirshir reached home, the sky was still bright. Yin Tianyu was teaching Xiao Chen his homework when she pushed open the door to the study room. For the past few days, Xiao Chen had been staying with Yu. Although Yu said that she disliked it, she did not reject it as much as before. With the two little guys together, the house was a little livelier. At least it was not so lonely. She saw Xiao Chen sitting in front of his desk with his exercise book spread out in front of him. He held a pen in his hand and looked like he had suffered a lot. Yu stood to the side with her arms crossed. Her face was full of disdain, and from time to time, she would hit his head with a rolled-up newspaper. "Stupid. You don't even know how to answer such a simple question." Sob. Xiao Chen blinked his eyes pitifully as if he was about to cry. Yin Shirshir sighed. When Mu Yaja returned, Yin Shirshir was swinging gently on the swing in the back garden. From afar, she looked as beautiful as a painting as she sat among the Chinese roses. He walked over and hugged her from behind. Yin Shirshir looked up and saw him. She smiled. "You're back?" Mu Yaja kissed her forehead. When did you come back? Around 3 p.m. I ended early today. Oh right. She giggled. Thank you for giving me the RV. I like it a lot. Muyaja's lips curled into a smile, but he did not say anything. He only gave her a gentle push, and the rope of the swing swayed slightly. Muyaja. She suddenly moved her lips and spoke. Du Jiayan looked for me today. Yin Shishir said slowly. Chapter 937. He's looking for you? Muyaja furrowed his brows. Did you do those things? Yin Shishir probed. Muyaja did not say anything, but he knew what she was referring to. He did not say anything, but he did not deny it either. The swing slowly came to a stop. Muyaja stood behind her quietly. Yin Shishir said again, let the Du family off. He grabbed her chin. His eyes were cold and his voice was cold. Why? Are you feeling sorry for him? No. Why would I feel sorry for him? Yin Shishir laughed. I just think that if it's a punishment, it's already heavy enough. You don't have to force him to a dead end, right? Muyaja snorted. You stupid woman, you're so kind. You're forgiving him just like that? I'm forgiving him, but I didn't say that I'm forgiving Huang Lily. I won't ask what you do to Huang Lily, but the Du family is innocent. Yin Shishir said sincerely. Muyaja looked at her clear and charming eyes. He suddenly lowered his head and sealed her red lips. He pressed his lips against hers and said in a low voice, okay. I promise you that I'll let him off. Yin Shishir pecked him on the lips. He said, but I won't let that woman off. She pursed her lips but did not say anything. She would not forgive that woman either. After all, Huang Lily was really despicable. She was not generous enough to forgive someone who had hurt her so wantonly. Yu had finished preparing dinner. He had specially made red braised pork for dinner tonight. However, when Yin Shishir sat at the table, she looked at the greasy meat on the plate and smelled it. She suddenly felt disgusted. She forced herself to hold it in. Her face was already showing signs of discomfort. Mommy, I specially made braised pork for you. It's your favorite. Yu smiled gently and was very considerate. Yin Shishir nodded. She picked up her chopsticks and picked up a piece of meat. She suppressed the nausea and put the meat into her mouth. She took a bite, and the fresh meat juice overflowed in her mouth. The nausea grew stronger. Her shoulders shuddered, and she had no choice but to spit the meat out. Yu frowned. Mommy, what's wrong? Mommy really liked the braised pork he made. Why was she acting so weird today? Could it be that he wasn't performing well, and his cooking wasn't good? Yu did not believe her and took a bite. It was fresh and fragrant. It was delicious. Then why did Mommy spit the meat out? Yu suddenly felt hurt. Yin Shishir saw his hurt face and immediately said, You cooked very well. Then Mommy doesn't seem to have much of an appetite today. Yu added, that's right. Mommy's appetite hasn't been good recently. I don't know why, so I made braised pork to adjust her appetite. Yin Shishir was afraid that Yu would be upset. She picked up the meat in the bowl. However, when she looked down and saw the delicious glow of the braised pork, she could not eat it no matter how delicious it was. Just thinking about it made her shiver. She covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom. She threw herself beside the toilet and retched. Muyaja walked to the bathroom. Seeing her in such a sorry state, his gaze changed. What's wrong? Yin Shishir did not have time to reply to him. She retched again. Muyaja suddenly thought of something. Her symptoms seemed like she was pregnant. Yu and Xiao Yichen ran over worriedly. Seeing Yin Shishir retching, Yu was especially nervous. His little hands tugged at the corner of his shirt. He was very worried. Chapter 938. Mommy isn't feeling well. You guys eat first. Muyaja waved the two little munchkins aside. Yu pouted unwillingly, but still obediently returned to the dining table with Xiao Yichen. However, she had lost her appetite. After vomiting for a while, she picked up the gargle cup to rinse her mouth. Muyaja walked to her side. The mirror reflected the strange smile on his lips. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Muyaja. Yin Shishir pursed her lips and looked embarrassed. I feel that something is wrong. What's wrong? He asked in a low voice. However, Yin Shishir did not see the happiness in his eyes. Yin Shishir blushed. She looked up at him and asked awkwardly. Previously, when you were doing that, did you? Do what? He seemed to be provoking her as his handsome face inched closer. That. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips again. She was embarrassed and annoyed at the same time. How could this man be so evil? He was obviously teasing her. She pursed her lips and did not speak. Her face was red and embarrassed, and she looked very innocent. Did you use any safety measures? No. Did you put it all inside? Yin Shirshir's voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Wuxia felt that her expression was very interesting. He couldn't help but peck her cheek gently. Are you pregnant? I don't know. But I don't have much of an appetite recently. Moreover, I often vomit in the morning. My period hasn't come for a long time. Her voice became softer as she spoke. Wuxia raised his eyebrows. His pupils dilated slightly, and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. The two of them formed a stark contrast. One was happy and the other was worried. Yin Shirshir did not notice the change in Wuxia's expression. She continued. If I'm pregnant, it'll be bad. Wuxia's lips turned cold. Yin Shirshir pushed him unhappily. It's all your fault. Why didn't you take any precautions? She muttered and threw herself at him. Wuxia frowned and asked. Why do you need to take precautions? Because I don't want to get pregnant. Yin Shirshir said matter-of-factly. You don't want to give birth? The smile on Wuxia's face disappeared. Her words were like a bucket of cold water poured over him. His face turned completely cold. He suddenly turned her body around and grabbed her chin. His tone was slightly unhappy and dangerous. What's wrong? You don't? This woman said that she didn't want to get pregnant, or did she not want to have his child? Yin Shirshir saw the dangerous aura in his eyes. She was a little scared, but she said, I don't want to get pregnant at this time. Besides, she already had Xiao Yichen and Yu. These two babies were enough. Wuxia narrowed his eyes. He was in a good mood to have his child, but she looked very distressed. Naturally, he was unhappy. I don't care if you want to or not. His domineering attitude was obvious at this moment. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. I might be pregnant. Wuxia did not allow her to say anything. He grabbed her hand and looked like he was going to walk out. Yin Shirshir struggled. She was a little shocked. She thought that he was going to do something. She was alert. What are you doing? What are you doing? Going to the hospital, he said, not allowing her to resist. Chapter 939. His arrival alerted the deputy director who was on duty. He rushed over with a group of people and waited for him at the door. Wuxia put his arm around Yin Shirshir's shoulder. He glanced at them and said, Give her a checkup. Remember, there's no room for mistakes. Once he gave the order, his subordinates naturally carried it out without any hesitation. After a series of tests, the doctor read the report and said, Chairman Mu, the test results are out. She's not pregnant. Not pregnant? Wuxia raised his eyebrows. He was obviously surprised by this result. Yin Shirshir was equally surprised. She was shocked at first, but then her heart calmed down. Wuxia glanced at her, the displeasure in his heart reaching its peak. Then, why have I been retching recently? What's going on? Also, my period hasn't come for a long time. The doctor replied, retching is usually caused by superficial gastritis. It's related to weak stomach qi and heat. You should pay more attention to your diet and avoid raw, cold, and spicy foods. We'll see how it goes. As for your period not coming, it's probably due to an endocrine imbalance. His tone was cautious and respectful. May I know if you've been working late? Yes. Yin Shirshir nodded. Recently, she had been working late to film and catch up with the schedule. It wasn't that filming was tiring, but sometimes she had to wait on the set even if she didn't have any scenes. If you mind, it's best to work and rest regularly. Otherwise, an endocrine imbalance will cause your period to be delayed. The doctor gave her a lot of advice again. However, Wuxia's expression was completely cold. On the way back, his expression was cold and he didn't say a word. Yin Shirshir couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Why? Are you disappointed that I'm not pregnant? Wuxia looked straight ahead. It was more than just disappointment. In short, Yin Shirshir was naturally happy that she wasn't pregnant. After the filming, there would be a long promotional period, and they would need to do roadshows all over the country. She stole a glance at him. Seeing his cold expression, she felt a little helpless. That night, just as she lay on the bed, Muyaja's tall body covered her. Yin Shirshir was startled. She saw his handsome face close to hers. His eyes were unfathomable, but they were filled with turbulence. She retreated slightly until her back was against the headboard of the bed. However, he closed in on her step by step, like a hunter who was determined to win. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips and became even more alert. What are you doing? Muyaja blew a breath of air on her cheek. He was as charming as an orchid. Do what I love to do. Swish. Yin Shirshir's face immediately turned hot. It was so red that it looked like it was dripping blood. This man. How could he calmly say such words that made her blush? Muyaja pressed her forehead, pinched her waist with his big palm, and his thin lips outlined a charming and hopeless arc. You say, should I work harder? What's there to work for? A certain man said evilly, when the flowers bloom, they bear fruit. The flowers bloomed. In the end, gosh, what a connotation. Yin Shirshir's face was unreasonably hot. Covering her face, she felt that this man could be really evil sometimes. I don't want to give birth anymore. Yin Shirshir's face fell. I already have you and Xiaoyichen. Not enough. Chapter 940. Yin Shirshir struggled, but Muyaja would not allow her to escape. His large palm pressed against her waist, and her entire body was pressed against his. A certain part of their bodies was pressed tightly against each other. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. Let's have another daughter. His gaze was clear, and he did not allow her to object. His thin lips pressed against hers. Yin Shirshir's protest was completely drowned out by his aggressive kiss. That night, Muyaja was especially hardworking. Outside the door, the two little lads tiptoed and pressed their ears against the door, eavesdropping on the secret behind the door. The two of them looked at each other. One of them was puzzled, while the other was blushing and speechless. Yu. Xiaoyichen gently poked Yu's waist and whispered into his ear. What are Daddy and Mommy doing? Yu already had a guilty conscience. When Xiaoyichen suddenly pressed against him, he was shocked and patted his chest. Then he gave him a disdainful slap on his face and pushed him away. This is philosophy. You don't understand. Xiaoyichen was dumbfounded. He pressed against him again. Then do you understand? Yu cleared his throat. His face was a little red as he turned around and went back to the room. Xiaoyichen followed behind him and closed the door. He smiled and asked, Yu, then what does blooming and bearing fruit mean? I'm not telling you. Tell me. You're so smart. You should know what it means. Actually, you did not really understand the meaning of blooming and bearing fruit. However, in front of Xiaoyichen, he had to pretend that he knew everything. I won't tell you. Yu pursed her lips and deliberately kept her in suspense. Xiaoyichen was a little angry. She pushed him onto the bed and reached out to pinch his waist. She pinched his sensitive spots and started to attack him from both sides. Yu couldn't take it anymore. She was about to laugh out loud. Tell me. Muyichen. Ha. Let go of me. Xiaoyichen enjoyed the sight of Yu begging for mercy under his body with satisfaction. This was a tried and tested trick. Yu was the least ticklish. Muyichen. Ha. No more. It's so itchy. Ha. The commotion was so loud that it alarmed the two people in the master bedroom. Yin Shirshir glanced at Muyaja and laughed. The two of you haven't slept yet? Don't bother about them. Muyaja was unhappy that her attention was on something else. He lowered his head and sealed her soft lips. Thus, the room was filled with romance. The Mu residence. Mu Wanru paced back and forth in the study. She did not dare to go out now because she knew that no matter where she went, Mu Lianjue would send people to follow her. Aaron's death the last time was undoubtedly a warning to her. After interacting with him for a while, she knew that he would not like others to go against his plans and act on their own. In this aspect, he was very similar to Muyaja. Her private meeting with Aaron that day had undoubtedly angered him. However, even if he had a card up his sleeve, Mu Wanru still felt uneasy. The media conference was imminent. Mu Yaja had already arranged everything. In another week's time, there would be a grand press conference to announce their marriage. However, after a psychological battle, Mu Wanru suddenly realized that this media conference might not be as simple as it seemed. What about Yin Shirshir? Chapter 941. Why was Mu Lianjue still not taking action to get rid of these two scourges? Mu Wanru was, without a doubt, in a state of panic. She felt that Mu Lianjue could not be trusted completely. Just as she was feeling anxious, there was a sudden knock on the door. The sudden movement almost scared Mu Wanru out of her wits. The servant pushed the door open and was startled to see her pale face. "Young madam, are you trying to scare me to death?" Mu Wanru's eyes were sharp and her tone was frosty. The servant shrunk her shoulders in fright and did not dare to breathe loudly. She did knock on the door and thought that there was no one in the study, so she came in to clean it. "Get out." "Yes." The servant didn't dare to show any signs of disobedience and retreated in fear. Mu Wanru walked to the window and looked at the gloomy weather outside. She secretly decided that if Mu Lianjue still did not take action, she would quickly take action to get rid of Yin Shirshir and Yin Tianyu. It was getting late, but Yin Shirshir was still not back. Mu Yaja had specially reminded Lin Fengtian that the filming could not be delayed so late. Usually, she would be back at 5:30 p.m. at the latest, but there was still no sign of her today. Mu Yaja found it strange. He called her phone, but it was switched off. It was probably out of battery. After waiting for a while, it started to rain outside. It was almost 7 p.m., but there was still no sign of her. Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen sat at the dining table. They refused to have dinner and insisted on waiting for their mommy to return. Mu Yaja was a little distraught, afraid that she would meet with an accident on the way back. With the Mu Group's influence, they had many enemies. Due to the fierce competition for business interests, they had many enemies, including many gang leaders. This was also the reason why he did not want Yin Shirshir to step into the entertainment industry. Could it be that she was in danger? Mu Yaja could no longer sit still at the thought of this. He stood up and walked toward the door, wanting to call his assistant to settle some matters. However, just as he was about to change his clothes, the door was flung open. Yin Shirshir rushed into the bathroom with a cardboard box in her arms. Her face was full of smiles, and she looked very happy. Mu Yaja was fuming. Where exactly did this woman go and come back? However, when he stormed into the bathroom, he saw Yin Shirshir standing on the spot, drenched from head to toe. She carefully held a small cardboard box. Inside the box was a drenched puppy. A puppy? Why did she bring a puppy back? Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen walked over and saw the puppy. Both of them loved small animals, especially newborn puppies. They could not resist it. Hence, they surrounded the cardboard box and stared at the puppy. Yin Shirshir looked even happier when she saw him. Her eyes lit up as she raised the cardboard box in her hands, as though she was presenting a treasure. She smiled and said, "Mu Yaja, look! A puppy!" Mu Yaja could not help but raise his eyebrows. "I recognize this as a puppy. Where did you get it?" Yin Shirshir giggled as she spun and jumped around with the box in her arms. "I picked it up from the roadside. Look, isn't it cute? It's so cute." As she spoke, she walked over to him with the cardboard box in her arms. Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen followed behind her. Xiao Yichen in particular stood on his tiptoes to look at the puppy. Chapter 942. Yu Yu glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and sneered. "Yes, it's so much like you." "You." Xiao Yichen was so angry that he pouted and glared at him. The puppy was silly and didn't know what was going on. It lay there aggrievedly and didn't know how to act cute to get a good impression of it, or whimper to ask for sympathy. It only looked at the man pitifully with its innocent but slightly resentful black eyes. The puppy was drenched from head to toe in the rain. Who knew how many days it had been since it last showered? It was extremely dirty. However, that pair of eyes gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. When he saw the woman's bright eyes again, he frowned helplessly. Yin Shirshir smiled and said, "What do you think? Isn't this puppy cute? Mu Yaja, let's adopt it." "No way." Mu Yaja rejected her without thinking. He reached out and pinched the puppy's ear with his orchid fingers. He glared at her and said, We already have one at home. We can't afford to raise a second one. As soon as he pinched its ears, the puppy began to howl in panic. It was obvious that it had received a great shock. We can't afford to raise it? Yin Shirshir choked on his earth-shattering words. However, she suddenly realized that something was wrong with his words. She followed his gaze and looked at herself up and down. Only then did she realize who he was referring to when he said he already had one at home. She said angrily, "Hey, didn't we agree not to make personal attacks? If you like it, I'll take you to a famous pet store tomorrow and buy you a decent poodle." This puppy was really too dirty. Wuxia tugged at the puppy's ears again. The poor puppy felt extremely wronged after being teased like this. It whined a few times with tears in its eyes and shrank back into the box. Xiao Yichen's heart ached. He immediately took the cardboard box from Yin Shirshir's arms and looked down at the puppy lovingly. "Daddy, don't bully it." Yin Shirshir slapped his fingers away from the puppy and grumpily said, "I like this one. I don't like the others. If you don't want to raise it, I'll raise it. Anyway, I've decided." "You like this dirty puppy that much?" Wuxia raised his eyebrows at her and asked. Yin Shirshir said angrily, "What's dirty? It's just that it's not showering. After it showers, I guarantee that its snowy white body will be cleaner than yours." Oh, Wuxia's interest was piqued. He chin his eyes and his eyes. "I'd like to see how you're going to wash this brown hair white." Yin Shirshir was momentarily speechless. This man was really good at picking holes in other people's words. She lowered her head and looked at the pitiful puppy. Her heart ached a little. She reached out and touched the puppy's wet fur. It wasn't that she was being kind. It was just that she had found this abandoned puppy on the side of the road when she and Han Mushi had gone to buy ice cream during their lunch break. She had only taken a glance at it and thought that this puppy was quite pitiful. She thought that there would be kind-hearted people who would pick it up in the afternoon. Thus she went back to work at the company. Chapter 943. She ran to the side of the street again, but the puppy was still there. Perhaps it was too dirty, so no one was willing to spend the effort to take it in. Perhaps the dog had some infectious disease. Now that the standard of living was high, even if someone wanted to raise a dog, they could spend a few hundred yuan to buy one. It was better than picking one up from the roadside. Perhaps it was because the dog hadn't eaten for a day, or 2 days, or even longer, that it was so hungry that it kept barking. Its pair of dark eyes were misty with tears, and it was so pitiful that it was whimpering. This dog was still too small. The cardboard box was still quite tall, and such a small dog was trapped inside. When it saw Yin Shirshir, its 2 small paws scratched the box, but it couldn't jump out. If no one picked it up, it would probably starve to death. Yin Shirshir didn't care if the dog had some infectious disease. She complained about the dog's owner's heartless heart as she carried the box around to look for food. After feeding it some food, she thought to herself that she should let the dog go. After all, the person at home was a serious germaphobe. But it was raining heavily, and it would be wet all night. That would be really pitiful. Moreover, the dog was still so small. What if it was accidentally run over while crossing the road? When she fed the dog, its small tongue licked her fingertips. It was soft, as if it was trying to please her, and also as if it was grateful. This little guy's teeth weren't fully grown yet. She suddenly thought of herself when she was young. She had also been abandoned in the orphanage, just like the dog. No one cared about her, and she had no one to rely on. Thus her heart began to ache. Following that, with her head bleeding and the dog in her arms, Yin Shirshir fearlessly returned with the dog in her arms. At that moment, her expression was like that of a revolutionary martyr. "Anyway, I'm going to raise this dog. How about it? Anyway, I won't throw it away. It's so pitiful. If I throw it away, it will die." There was a hint of a threat in her words. Wuxia coldly sized up the woman and dog in front of him. When did this woman become so bold? Yin Shirshir saw that he was sizing her up, but she was not afraid. She puffed up her chest and snorted coldly to show her determination. Wuxia was helpless and said coolly, "It's not impossible to raise them." Before he could finish his sentence, Yin Shirshir jumped 3 feet high and cheered loudly, "Hee hee. Wuxia, you're the best." Wuxia's face immediately turned ashen. He had heard that pets carried a lot of germs. Was it possible to be so close to pets? What if he had a disease? Has this dog been vaccinated? Is your body healthy? You only know how to bring it back. Wuxia saw that she was about to approach him with the dog in her arms. He quickly took a few steps back without leaving a trace. His expression was not the usual kind of disdain. But there are 3 rules. Yin Shishir nodded without thinking. Her pair of sparkling eyes were like that of a doted puppy. One had to know that a clean freak like him was willing to take in this dirty puppy. It was already a great gift. The dog in the cardboard box also poked its small head out. Its pair of black eyes stared at Wuxia. It blinked, feeling wronged and sad. It sized him up and tilted its head from time to time. Chapter 944. This dog was brought back by Yin Shishir. She was also the one who said that she wanted to raise it. Naturally, the dog's daily life was left to Yin Shishir to take care of. For the sake of hygiene, this dog had to be raised on the 2nd floor. Its nest could only be placed there, and it could not take a step downstairs. Even its meals could only be eaten on the 2nd floor. Naturally, the showers and dog food were all Yin Shishir's business. Other than that, he could not find any dog hair in the house. He could not see any dog paw prints on the 1st floor, not to mention excrement. If he saw it, he would slap it 50 times. Anyway, the rules were very simple. Under his watch, this dog could not be seen. If Yin Shishir wanted to play with the dog, she had to go to the 2nd floor. Yin Shishir, on the other hand, was a little unhappy. How was this a 3-point agreement? It was almost 30. She muttered under her breath. How heartless. Are you a dog's father too? Wuxia glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. With a noble and cold expression, he said, My genes are very normal. I can't give birth to a dog. Yin Shishir choked again. She lowered her head, patted the dog's head, and said, Come, call me daddy. The puppy seemed to understand Yin Shishir's words. It looked at Wuxia as if it understood. How could such a small puppy know how to bark? At this time, it could only whimper. Facing Wuxia's direction, the puppy opened its small mouth and whimpered pitifully again. Then it ended with a big yawn. Wuxia was speechless. Wuxia, look, your son is begging you. Don't be so harsh. As it spoke, it reached out to scratch Wuxia's clothes. Wuxia remembered that the hand had touched the dog just now. Hence he felt disgusted again. He moved far away and said coldly, Don't touch me if you don't wash your hands. Yin Shishir said, Baby, your daddy is disgusted with us. Baby, right, is it a male or female? Male. Are you sure it's male? I've seen it before. Yin Shishir was still worried. She picked up the dog again and touched its penis with her fingertips. A certain man immediately said fiercely, Don't touch. Damn it. What if this dog has some kind of germs on it? Mommy, let's take it to the pet hospital for a bath and check if it's sick. You suggested. So after the family of 4 finished eating, they drove the dog all the way to the pet club. When they rushed over, they were just about to close the door and go home. When they saw Yin Shishir rushing over with the dog, they hurriedly said, Hey miss, I'm sorry. Our shop is closed. Haha. Help me take a bath. While you're at it, you can also get a vaccine or something. Yin Shishir said with a smile. The shop owner was dumbfounded. He had to come here to take a bath? He didn't know if such a small dog could take a bath. Besides, couldn't the vaccine be done tomorrow? Moreover, this dog was so small and dirty. It looked like it had just been picked up. They had to wait for it to adapt to the environment before giving it an injection. Just as the shop owner was about to decline, a tall figure suddenly appeared behind Yin Shishir. Wuxia stood behind her with a frosty expression. His eyes were as sharp as ice blades. When he saw that the shop owner was about to close, his face darkened. He seemed to be very dissatisfied with the shop owner's actions. Hence he snorted coldly. Open the door. Oh my God. Chapter 945. The owner was so frightened by his gaze that his whole body shivered. He didn't even dare to question or refute. He turned around and fiddled with the door lock. He secretly cursed in his heart. Did this man have to be so fierce? Look at that gaze. It was as if he owed him millions. He was just opening a pet club. He wouldn't have offended anyone, right? What a scary man. Could it be that he's part of a gang? If he didn't open the door, was he going to shoot him? Thus, a certain owner who was about to go home for dinner was forced to stay in the shop and began to work hard to check the dog. Fortunately, although the dog was abandoned, it had all 4 limbs and was very healthy. It was already more than 3 months old. However, the breed of dogs was small, so this dog wouldn't grow much bigger. It was a cute little Pomeranian. It had caught a slight cold because it was caught in the rain. After bathing the dog, trimming its hair, giving it a shot of vaccine and deworming, it was done. Yin Shirshir carried the clean puppy and looked left and right. The puppy was adorable after its bath. It had a pair of big, bright eyes, beautiful fur, and pointy ears. It was very cute. This time, she was finally satisfied. Muyaja threw down the money and was about to leave, but the owner was an honest man. Seeing that the money was too much, he couldn't help but say kindly, "Sir, you gave a little too much money." Muyaja suddenly turned around and glared at him. "Take it. Don't talk nonsense." The owner was smart again. He was just short of answering a general's order in the army. Li Zheng slightly relaxed. Yes, on this end, Yin Shirshir was satisfied. Since the dog was well, she was naturally in a good mood. She bought some cute supplies from the pet club and busied herself on the 2nd floor for a long time before she finished decorating the kennel. Yin Shirshir looked at the kennel she had decorated and felt that it was very warm. Thus, she happily put the puppy in. At first, the dog wasn't used to it, but after a while, it got used to it and liked the bedroom Yin Shirshir decorated. Thus, she excitedly fed it. She busied herself for half a day on the 2nd floor, fiddling with it for a long time before she reluctantly walked down. Just as she walked down the stairs, Yin Shirshir heard the dog's uneasy barking. It seemed that it had lost its sense of security after leaving Yin Shirshir, or it was afraid of the dark like Yin Shirshir. In short, it was restless. Yin Shirshir was also flustered by the puppy's pitiful cries. She turned back to look at it 3 times with every step. In the end, she could not bear it any longer and ran toward the kennel, shouting, "Little Zhezha! Little Zhezha!" That seemed to be the name she gave to this puppy. Muyaja, who was sitting on the sofa and reading the financial newspaper, could not help but turn ashen. This woman, did she have to give the dog such a name? It was really ear-piercing to him. Yin Shirshir stayed on the 2nd floor and didn't come down. Muyaja was a little dissatisfied. He thought sourly in his heart that he was regretting taking in this damn male dog. This woman was too much. She only had so little time after work, and now she gave it all to this stupid dog. He didn't know what was so good about this damn dog. Was it as handsome as him? Was it as rich as him? Was it as charming as him? Chapter 946. Muyaja gritted his teeth and thought, find a chance, oh no. When Yin Shirshir wasn't around, he would kick this stupid dog out, so that it wouldn't interfere with his private life. After a long time, Yin Shirshir reluctantly walked downstairs. She saw Muyaja sitting on the sofa, looking a little unhappy. She seemed to have thought of something, so she sat beside him with a smile and leaned on him coquettishly. Muyaja couldn't help but glance at this little woman coldly. Why? Did this woman finally know how to be grateful to him? She also knew that she had neglected him. She also knew how to curry favor with him. How could he not know what this little woman was thinking? So he pretended to be indifferent and didn't look at her. His voice was cold and emotionless. What's the matter? Muyaja, I have something to tell you. She sounded so intimate when she called the dog's name, but she sounded so distant when she called him. Muyaja felt a little sour because of this. It couldn't be anything good for her to say. Could it be that she had to do something to compensate him? Seeing that Muyaja didn't speak, Yin Shirshir simply said bluntly, let's hire a nanny for the dog. When Muyaja heard this, the corners of his eyes suddenly twitched violently. Hire a nanny for the dog. He thought that this woman's thoughts were easy to understand, but now he had seen it for himself. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Seeing that his face was getting gloomier, Yin Shirshir was a little puzzled. She didn't know what this man was thinking. His expression was so ugly. She didn't seem to have said anything wrong, so she didn't care about him and told him her doubts. Here's what I think. Think about it. There are usually only the 2 of us in this apartment. You usually have to go to the office, and I have to go to work. The dog is so small, and there's no one to take care of it. Why don't we hire a nanny? Muyaja glared at her coldly. He looked away childishly and snorted. Waste of money. Waste of money. Yin Shirshir was shocked. Her delicate body trembled, and her mouth opened into a big O shape. Waste of money. This word actually came out of the mouth of a nouveau riche who had always been a spendthrift. This kind of feeling was too strong. It was too shocking. Yin Shirshir felt very unconvinced. Thus she made another good suggestion. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you to take care of it for a while. When you go to the office, bring it with you. The man snorted. I'm sorry, I'm very busy. She couldn't help but worry. She couldn't help but hold on her face, muttered. Ah, that little Zhezha is it at home? Will starve to death. S's, STS. Est, SSSS. S. Yin Shirshir pushed him away unhappily and said seriously, Little Zhezha, this name is so cute. Doesn't it sound familiar? As she spoke, she hugged him and kissed his cheek. Young Master Mu's cold, handsome face was suddenly dyed with a strange red. He glared at her coldly again, only to see Yin Shirshir pointing at his face in surprise. Muyaja, you're actually blushing. A certain man became even angrier. Shut up. Feeling that murderous gaze, Yin Shirshir was instantly intimidated. She sat on the sofa obediently and didn't dare to move. Send the dog away before tomorrow night. Chapter 947. Why? I don't like dogs. But I like it. Muyaja turned to face her with a dangerous glint in his eyes. Choose between me and it. Yin Shirshir said without hesitation. I choose little Zhezha. Stupid woman, you said it. I'll kick this stupid dog out of the house tomorrow. After saying that, he stood up. Yin Shirshir watched as Muyaja walked into the study and slammed the door loudly. She couldn't help but be amused by him. Was this man jealous? How childish of him to be so serious with a puppy. Speaking of which, he had made an agreement with Yin Shirshir. Young Master Mu had said that no matter what, that stupid dog couldn't come downstairs. But today this rule was broken by a certain woman. Early in the morning, Muyaja opened his eyes and met a pair of blinking dog eyes. After being stunned for a moment, he was completely stunned. That stupid dog saw that he was stunned and found it interesting, so it stuck out its pink and tender tongue and licked the tip of his nose. This lick caused trouble. Muyaja's morning temper and his misophobic eyes exploded. His hands immediately grabbed the dog's neck tightly, ruthlessly ravaged. When he thought that dogs couldn't change their habit of eating shit, he thought of that especially dirty tongue. But now this stupid dog actually used such a dirty tongue to lick him. Damn it. The dog's neck was choked by him just like that. Although he didn't use much strength, it was such a small dog after all. This bit of strength was enough to make it suffer. Therefore, in addition to being frightened, they let out a series of tragic howls. The dog mother who heard the news was still making breakfast when she saw the man and dog staring at each other. She was nervous and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Without thinking, she rushed over to save the puppy that was in deep trouble. She slapped the man hard and said angrily, Muyaja, let go of me. I'm going to die. It took a lot of effort to separate them. Yin Shirshir hugged the dog, who was about to roll his eyes, and said angrily, Muyaja, what are you doing? Why was he so ruthless? If I came a step later, little Ju would have been strangled to death by you. Muyaja glared at her and snorted coldly. Just in time. Let's have dog stew tonight. Yin Shirshir murmured. How can you be so vicious? It seemed that not only was this man's mouth poisonous, his heart was poisonous as well. Muyaja looked straight at her, squinted his eyes and said faintly, I clearly remember. We have agreed on 3 points. This dog cannot come downstairs. When Yin Shirshir heard this, she couldn't help but feel guilty. She stuck out her tongue, turned around and ran away. When Muyaja sat at the dining table, the dog had already been coaxed upstairs by Yin Shirshir. The man didn't seem to be in a good mood. Oh, that wasn't important. What was important was that he didn't vent his anger on her. Yin Shirshir also knew that she had indeed gone overboard. She saw that the dog was so cute, clean and fragrant. She wanted to take the opportunity to build a good relationship between the father and son. In the end, she didn't expect Muyaja's misophobia to act up. It was too scary. Chapter 948. Wuxia glanced at her coldly from the corner of his eyes. He narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, I think you've misunderstood something. Yin Shishir was stunned. What? It's not that I dislike dogs. I just don't like dogs at all. Of course, dog meat is an exception. After he said that, he glanced at Yin Shishir meaningfully. His words were actually a little threatening. But to be honest, he really didn't eat dog meat. At most, he was just scaring a certain silly woman. Yin Shishir was obviously frightened by his words. She quickly said, What are you doing? What evil intentions do you have? You're not going to do anything to little Jia, are you? Wuxia raised his eyebrows. I haven't done anything yet. If I eat it, what can you do? Yin Shishir was a straightforward person. In her anxiety, she said something shocking. Damn it. I'll eat you. Wuxia was stunned. Then he revealed a teasing and devilish smile. Alright, I'd like to see how you're going to eat me. Yin Shishir did not react to his words at first, but when she saw the playful look in his eyes, no matter how stupid she was, she finally understood what he meant. A strange blush crept up her cheeks, and she turned her face away in embarrassment and anger, refusing to look at him again. Wuxia thought that this woman was really too cute. She was even cuter than a dog. He hadn't even done anything yet, and she was already blushing. Thinking about that, he couldn't help but chuckle. Seeing him laugh, Yin Shishir felt even more unnatural. Thus, she stuffed a piece of bread into his mouth and said with a frown, Eat your breakfast. Go to work after you're done. After breakfast, Yin Shishir stood at the door with the puppy and the pet kennel. She looked at Wuxia, who was wearing a suit leisurely. She opened her mouth to say something but stopped herself. It wasn't until Wuxia walked to the door and glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. Just as he was about to leave, Yin Shishir finally threw caution to the wind and spoke. That. Wuxia stopped in his tracks and started to nitpick. Who's that? Yin Shishir was at a loss for words. She was stunned for half a second before she corrected herself. It was rare for them to call each other so intimately. Wuxia was satisfied with this title. Seeing the smile on his face, Yin Shishir hurriedly walked forward and said with a smile, My company doesn't allow dogs. Wuxia's attitude was very indifferent. Oh so. Yin Shishir pointed at the dog. Do you think you can do it? Wuxia turned around and looked at her thoughtfully. Then he said coldly, My company also prohibits employees from bringing pets. Yin Shishir hurriedly walked forward and tidied his tie and clothes. She blinked her eyes and pretended to be cute. She pouted and said coquettishly, Wuxia, you're the boss anyway. You're the big boss. No one dares to say anything if you bring a pet. Wuxia narrowed his eyes and said, The company's CEO is taking the lead to violate the rules and regulations. Yin Shishir was speechless. She clicked her tongue. Is it that serious? Wuxia said, Yes. Yin Shishir was a little sympathetic. That's because you're not imposing enough. Under normal circumstances, even if the boss brings a lion, tiger, elephant, or even a woman to work, the employees wouldn't dare to bring a little hamster. Wuxia said, Women are pets too. Yin Shishir said, Little Zhezhe isn't a pet either. He's your son. Chapter 949. Yin Shishir's coaxing and pestering were all to no avail. She hugged the dog and refused to let go. If she really left the dog alone at home, it would definitely starve to death. How could she bear to see the puppy suffer at such a young age? Hence, she clenched her teeth and grabbed the corner of Wuxia's shirt pitifully. She shook the corner of his shirt and said, Daddy. Her words had hit the nail on the head. Wuxia turned his head slowly and glanced at her. Yin Shishir pursed her lips and made up her mind. She raised the dog in front of him and said, Take it in for a while. I'll agree to one condition. Wuxia looked at her for 3 seconds and suddenly asked, Anything? Yin Shishir nodded vigorously. Wuxia said, One is not enough. I want 3. Yin Shishir's eyes widened in astonishment. Why are you still bargaining? Wuxia raised his eyebrows. Why? You don't want to? After that, he pretended to leave. Yin Shishir hurriedly pulled him back. She gritted her teeth and said, Fine. 3 it is. You have to treat it well. You're not allowed to starve it or hit it. Muyaja did not reply, which meant that he had agreed. Send it to my car. Yin Shirshir giggled and carried the dog into the car. Her eagerness finally made Muyaja lose his composure. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Muyaja first sent Yin Shirshir to the company. When he arrived at the company, the security guard opened the car door. Muyaja threw the keys into his hand and asked him to park the car as usual. When he got out of the car, he seemed to have thought of something. He turned around and instructed the security guard, "Send that stupid dog to my office." "Yes, CEO Mu." When Minyu escorted the puppy to the CEO's office, it attracted a lot of attention. Special Assistant Min, is that a puppy you're holding? Isn't it forbidden to bring pets to work? Special Assistant Min, you're taking the lead in violating the company's rules. Minyu replied, "This is the CEO's dog. He asked me to bring it to the office." As soon as he said that, the employees instantly changed their expressions and exclaimed, "Oh, not only is Chairman Mu handsome, even his puppy is so cute. Yes, what a cute dog. I didn't expect President Mu to be so kind. I heard that men who like small animals must be very gentle inside." Minyu fell silent. Little Zhezhe was sent to the CEO's office. In the morning, Muyaja had 2 board meetings. Naturally, Minyu had to follow him and take notes. Before the meeting, Minyu fed the puppy some water. Little Zhezhe was obviously frightened to be in an unfamiliar environment. Its whole body was trembling. It raised its small and cute head and looked at Minyu as if he was a demon king. Its body was trembling even more. When it saw the water that Minyu gave it, it twitched its nose vigilantly. After sniffing for a long time, it stuck out its pink tongue and licked it a few times. Patter, patter. Minyu saw how cute it was and couldn't help but reach out to touch it. Little Zhezhe shrank back in shock. However, when it realized that Minyu didn't seem to have any bad intentions, it squinted its eyes and licked Minyu's fingers a few times. The puppy's teeth weren't fully grown yet. It didn't feel much pain when it bit Minyu's hand. It just felt itchy and numb. Minyu's heart was about to melt. "Oh, it's so cute. Special Assistant Min, the meeting is about to start." An assistant knocked on the door and reminded him. Chapter 950. Seeing that he had left, Little Zhezhe panicked. It was all alone in such a large and unfamiliar environment. It immediately screamed helplessly and sadly a few times. Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, it whimpered sadly for a long time. "Whoa." It covered its mouth and cried like a baby. Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, Little Zhezhe curled up in a corner and closed its eyes. Not long after, it woke up again and stood up clumsily. Its 2 chubby little paws rested on the edge of the box, and its 2 little legs rubbed against the box as if it wanted to climb out and explore this unknown and mysterious world. But its legs were short, weren't they? It could not climb out no matter how hard it tried. Little Zhezhe suddenly became anxious. It kept whining and jumping around in the kennel. With its efforts, the cardboard box collapsed and it successfully climbed out. It began to walk around leisurely, shaking its butt. It sniffed here and there, and its eyes sparkled with curiosity. This was perhaps the most privileged dog in the world. It could walk around the president's office of Dishing Financial Group so freely. If it were anyone else's dog, they would have been kicked away by Muyaja. But it was different. Yin Shirshir had picked it up. Muyaja had tolerated it. However, before going to the meeting, he had specifically told Minyu not to let the dog slip out. Muyaja was a misophobe. His office was very clean, and not a speck of dust was allowed. Every day, the cleaning lady would focus on cleaning his office. But the puppy did not understand. It wandered around to its heart's content, scratching at the expensive leather sofa and gnawing at the corner of Muyaja's solid wood desk, leaving behind a ghastly set of teeth marks. After a while, it ran to the expensive carpet and peed in satisfaction. Now that Muyaja was not around, the huge office was its playground. When it was tired, it stretched out its legs and lay on the floor. However, after a few seconds, it stood up restlessly. Suddenly, it ran to the door and scratched at it eagerly, as if it wanted to go out. But who would care about it now? It seemed to be impatient as its 2 claws madly scratched the solid wooden door. However, seeing that no one was paying attention to it, it could no longer hold it in. It circled around on the spot, its nose twitching as it constantly made sniffing sounds. Finally, its small body quivered, and it arched its back. Its four limbs moved closer, and its butt trembled violently. Then, with a poof, it defecated a pile of smelly feces. This time, it finally felt comfortable. It spread its claws and walked around a few more times before lying down on the carpet and falling asleep. After the meeting ended, Wuxia walked to the office while giving instructions to Minyu. Just as he pushed the door open and took a step forward, he felt that he had stepped on something soft. His face stiffened and his eyes turned cold. Minyu walked up to him and saw his back stiffened at the door. He was a little surprised. He raised his head and saw his tense and gloomy face. Puzzled, he asked, "President, what's wrong?" Wuxia lifted his leather shoes stiffly. Under his feet was a puddle of poop that he had pampered. Chapter 951. Minyu's face turned green when he saw this. He wanted to laugh but did not dare to. Wuxia was furious. He did not even need to think to know who did this. He stopped at the door and looked around. Soon he saw the deep claw marks on the leather sofa. Little Zhizh's claws were not flat. They were very sharp and had scratched several places. Wuxia's face turned even darker. However, when he saw the bite marks on the corner of the desk, his face turned gloomy. Minyu was observing from the side. He was so scared that he did not even dare to breathe. Wuxia suddenly turned his head slowly and looked at him coldly. He said in an unfriendly tone, "I remember that I told you not to let that stupid dog out." Minyu lowered his head and said guiltily, "Yes." "Then what's going on?" Wuxia looked at the indescribable marks on his feet. His eyes were sharp and scary. "Give me an explanation." "President, this," stepping on a dick meant that it was lucky. However, he did not dare to say this out loud. But there was no other way. Humans had 3 natural urges, and so did dogs. It was so small. How could it hold it in? He immediately ordered the cleaning auntie to come over and clean it up. Then, he quickly replaced the desk that was bitten by little Zhizha. Even the damaged sofa was replaced. Then his assistant hurriedly bought a new pair of leather shoes. As for the shoes that had stepped on a dick, they naturally had to be thrown away. Damn stupid dog. Wuxia stood in the office and looked around. However, he could not find any trace of that stupid dog. "Where's the dog?" he asked. Minyu immediately searched everywhere. Finally, he found little Zhizha, who was trembling uneasily in the corner. He brought the puppy in front of Wuxia. Wuxia stared at it coldly. He wanted to flare up a few times, but he held it back. The puppy was so small that he even suspected that it would be on the verge of death if he slapped it. Suppressing his anger, he threw it into a corner and punished it. How could little Zhizha stand still? It blinked its eyes innocently. When Wuxia glared at it, it shuddered violently and cried out in fear. "Don't shout!" Wuxia bellowed. Little Zhizha was so scared that he kept quiet. His whole body trembled as he looked at it. His eyes were watery and he looked so innocent. "Can I shit in the office?" he questioned. Little Zhizha tilted his head, as if he did not understand his words. "Answer." Under Wuxia's cold gaze, the little puppy was so scared that it let out an "awoo" sound, and its gaze became timid. "Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes." He held it and turned it around so that it faced the wall. Little Zhizha timidly turned around and stared at him innocently, as if silently accusing him of being rude. For a moment, he actually saw the shadow of Yin Shirshir in its bewildered eyes. Many times, she had also stared at him with such eyes. He actually felt a little sorry for it. "I'll let you off this time. If there's a next time." His voice came to an abrupt end. His gaze was terrifying and cold. Little Zhizha was almost paralyzed by his gaze. With a muffled groan, he stood up and threw it back into the kennel. Then he returned to his desk to deal with his own matters. However, not long after, he felt that something was rubbing against his trousers. Chapter 952. He kicked it to the side impatiently. Even though he didn't use much strength, it still lost its balance and fell backwards, tumbling heavily. Little Zhizha seemed unwilling to give up. It ran to his side and continued to pull at his trousers with its paws. Wuxia kicked it to the side again. "Go back to your nest." After being ignored, little Zhezhe began to howl. Each howl was louder than the previous one, and in the end, it actually howled at the top of its lungs. A woo-woo. Its howls sounded miserable, as if it was sad that he had ignored it. Wuxia finally lost his patience. He lifted it up and placed it on his lap. Thus, it stopped barking and found a place to curl up in the corner of his arms. Slowly, it subconsciously burrowed into his suit jacket. The office was air-conditioned. It obviously felt cold. Wuxia's face was so dark that it was unreasonable. What was wrong with him? Why did he promise that stupid woman to bring this stupid dog to work? He couldn't concentrate on his work for the whole day because this stupid dog always seemed to have a way to make him angry. Hence, when Minyu pushed the door open and entered, he was surprised to see Wuxia sitting in front of his desk with a dark face. "Boss." Wuxia was obviously in an extremely gloomy mood. Minyu walked over at once, only to see the ignorant puppy in Wuxia's arms, sleeping soundly with its forepaws in the air. Oh God, did this dog want to go to heaven? One must know that Wuxia's obsession with cleanliness was known to all. How could he allow a dog to run wild on him? Not only did it fall asleep, but it also seemed to be in a dream. Its foreclaws twitched all of a sudden as it kicked and stained Wuxia's white and clean shirt with dust. Minyu was stunned. "Boss, don't you hate dogs the most? If you know, then why don't you take this stupid dog away?" Wuxia glared at him. Minyu immediately picked up the dog. "Change out of this suit for me." Minyu immediately ordered his men to buy him a new suit to change into. "Your job this afternoon is to take good care of this dog." After Wuxia gave the order, he left the room. There was an important meeting in the afternoon. Minyu carried the puppy with a smile on his face. On this day, Yin Shirshir received a call from Jiangli. Over the phone, Jiangli stammered as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare to. Yin Shirshir laughed and said, "Jiangli, do you have something to say to me?" Jiangli hummed softly, but did not say it immediately. Instead, she mulled over it a few times in her heart. Speaking of which, it was quite ironic. Before the class reunion, when her classmates did not know about Yin Shirshir's situation, they all looked down on Yin Shirshir. In fact, they even looked down on her. In university, Huang Lili fanned the flames and created rumors that Yin Shirshir was a mistress of a rich man outside of school. She said that she was a secret lover that could not be seen in public. Compared to these, there were even more unbearable words. Huang Lili even created rumors that Yin Shirshir was a public transport that could be slept with as long as one paid money. She said that 30,000 yuan was enough to keep her for a month. She even warned the boys in school not to be fooled by Yin Shirshir's appearance. She said that she looked pure and innocent, but what was the truth? She was very cheap. Chapter 953. Yin Shirshir did not know about it, but Jiangli did. During the period when Yin Shirshir was suspended from school, the rumors about her in school were extremely unbearable. Later on, due to an accident, Yin Shirshir gave birth to a child out of wedlock. However, it indirectly verified the rumors that Huang Lili had spread. Huang Lili also secretly said that Yin Shirshir's child was an illegitimate child, a bastard. So what if it was a son? A bastard child who could not see the light of day would not be acknowledged by wealthy families. Furthermore, no one was willing to be friends with Yin Shirshir. Those boys who had pursued Yin Shirshir in the past all felt that such a girl was filthy. Some even felt ashamed of having liked Yin Shirshir. At first, Jiangli also believed that Yin Shirshir was really a mistress of a rich man. However, unlike others, she was always polite to Yin Shirshir. That was because she felt that Yin Shirshir was quite pitiful. With such a pitiful heart, Jiangli often helped her. Since things had turned out this way, Yin Shirshir would probably not be able to get married in the future, right? Which man would be willing to marry an 18-year-old girl who gave birth to a child out of wedlock? Many of the female classmates in the class were quite gloating. They all felt that Yin Shirshir was actually quite pitiful. Raising a child alone, she must have been very down and out. Hence, many of the female classmates were smug and even compared themselves to Yin Shirshir. Seeing how the once famous school belle was now in such a sorry state, they could not help but feel an inexplicable sense of superiority. However, that class reunion overturned everyone's understanding. Yin Shirshir actually had a boyfriend. And he was the CEO of Dishing Financial Group? Gosh, that was the Mu Group that could cause the stock market to tremble with a yawn. Naturally, they did not believe it and were skeptical. However, when Wang Chuanda appeared and treated Mu Yaja so respectfully, how could it be fake? After the class reunion, the Du family quickly suffered. She heard that because Du Jiayan and Huang Lili had offended Yun Shishir and said those unbearable things at the class reunion, the Muse had suppressed the Du family so badly that they were on the brink of bankruptcy in just a few days. Only then did these people truly believe it. At the same time, they were envious, jealous, and in awe of Yun Shishir. Later, after Du Jiayan begged Yun Shishir, the next day, the Du family's projects slowly recovered. He was surprised and overjoyed, feeling extremely grateful to Yun Shishir. She really took the words he begged her to heart. However, Huang Lili's family underwent a drastic change. Huang Lili was originally from a poor family. Her hometown was a village in the city of Beijing. Father Huang used to be in the limelight. However, the Asian financial crisis happened. His business was destroyed and his factory closed down. In the end, he was heavily in debt and had no choice but to return to his hometown. Later, Huang Lili hooked up with Du Jiayan. Under the Du family's arrangement, Father Huang became the village secretary. Although it was not as glorious as before, it was still smooth sailing for him. However, recently, Father Huang was anonymously reported for abusing his position and embezzling more than 1,000,000 yuan. Not only that, Father Huang even embezzled the government's poverty support fund. The total embezzlement amounted to several million yuan. The village in the city was a poverty-stricken county that was heavily supported by the capital. The annual support fund amounted to several million yuan. Father Huang's case was especially serious. According to the law, not only would all his assets be confiscated, he would also face a life sentence. Life sentence. Chapter 954. She did not even need to think to know who was behind this. Why did the incident suddenly come to light? Huang Lili didn't need to guess who the anonymous informant was. She already knew who it was. This time, she was thoroughly frightened. She rushed home in the middle of the night, but her father had already been taken away by the Disciplinary and Inspection Commission for investigation. Mother Huang's hair turned white overnight, and she fainted from crying several times. She suffered a stroke and was sent to the hospital. She was still in a coma and was still under observation. All of her family's assets were frozen. Huang Lili had no choice but to use the little savings she had to pay for her mother's medical expenses. Now she was penniless. This was what it meant to be at the end of one's rope. Mother Huang still needed follow-up treatment, and the cost was high. If she was not treated in time, she would be in danger of becoming a vegetable. Huang Lili was so frightened that she did not know what to do. She called Du Jiayan for help, but he coldly rejected her. Huang Lili, you still have the cheek to call me? We've already broken up. Don't call me again to bother me. Because of you, the Du family suffered so much. Isn't that enough? Huang Lili begged softly. Jiayan, on account of our friendship, can you help me this time? You still have the cheek to talk about friendship with me? Her words made Du Jiayan furious. Because of you, the Du family almost went bankrupt. What about you? What did you do? Huang Lili, you're the one who broke up with me. Since you can't bear the hardships with me, why should I help you now that you're in trouble? You reap what you sow. If it weren't for your vanity and offending someone you shouldn't have, would you end up like this? The Du family has yet to recover, and can't even protect itself. You should take care of yourself. With that, he hung up the phone. When Huang Lili tried calling him again, she was told that she could not get through. She had probably been blacklisted by him. The next day, the hospital sent another reminder. The money she had saved in the hospital was not enough to cover the medical expenses, and she had already owed several bills. At her wit's end, she naturally did not dare to look for Yun Shishir personally. Thus, she sought out Jiang Li, hoping that the latter could plead for mercy from Yun Shishir on her behalf on account of the fact that they were once classmates. She hoped that the latter would be merciful and not force the Huang family into a corner. Jiang Li rejected her at first. However, Huang Lili was exhausted from crying. She even said that if this went on, she would be too ashamed to continue living if her father and her mother's Jiang Li's heart softened and she agreed. However, after dialing Yin Shishir's number, she to speak. Shishir, have you heard about what happened to Huang Lili? What's the matter? I heard that Huang Lili's father was reported anonymously. It was said that he was corrupt and took bribes. The amount of money he received was several million. He has been taken away for investigation. If he is convicted, I'm afraid he will be sentenced to life imprisonment. Yin Shishir muttered to herself for a moment. Jiang Li continued. Her mother couldn't take the blow and suffered a stroke. She's still in the hospital now, but the family's funds have been frozen, so they can't pay for the medical expenses. If she's not treated in time, she'll become a vegetable. How tragic. Yin Shishir laughed softly. Jiang Li, what do you mean by telling me this? Chapter 955. Yin Shishir said casually. Do you also think that I'm selfless enough to forgive someone who used unscrupulous means to slander me? Jiang Li said anxiously. I assure don't misunderstand. That's not what I meant. I just feel that Huang Lili is pitiful. Although she's in the wrong, isn't this punishment a little too severe? Punishment. Pitiful. Yin Shishir was so angry that she laughed. Jiang Li, are you muddle-headed? If her father wasn't corrupt, why would he be reported anonymously? Jiang Li was speechless. Yin Shishir laughed again and said, if her father was just and honest, why would he be afraid that others would take advantage of him? If her father hadn't brought this upon himself, her mother wouldn't have suffered such a blow and all these things wouldn't have happened. These are all their own sins. Don't tell me you're suspecting that I sent someone to report them anonymously and made up those baseless accusations to pin the blame on them? Jiang Li was also a little angry, but she didn't dare to say anything. She only said, Sure, I'm just feeling sorry for Huang Lili. Don't be so harsh with your words. Don't hurt our friendship over such a small matter. Moreover, I didn't mean it that way. Don't overthink it. Jiang Li, people have to learn to put themselves in other people's shoes. If you have empathy and put yourself in my shoes, if you were slandered and hurt like this, would you forgive her? Jiang Li said, of course not. Huang Lili has gone too far. That's what you said. Moreover, I didn't harm her. This is all her family's own sins. She deserves to go to jail for taking bribes. The law is strict and fair. Since she did something wrong, she should be punished, right? Yin Shishir had already made her stance clear. Jiang Li sighed and said, I'm sorry, Shishir. I may not be able to empathize with the hurt you have suffered, but I don't mean to ask you to forgive Huang Lili. I was only asked by her to plead on her behalf. Since you've made your stance clear, then this matter will end here. I won't mention it again. After that, Jiang Li apologized profusely and hung up the phone. Yin Shishir frowned. Actually, every circle had its own rules of the game. Since he wanted to survive in this circle, he had to abide by the rules of the game. If they didn't follow the rules, they would definitely be eliminated. Lin Fengtian purposely filmed all her scenes with Gu Xingze. Normally, a youth movie like this would only take Liang 3 months to film. Since Yin Shishir and Gu Xingze were in their best condition, their scenes were completed within 10 days. The production crew even held a celebratory banquet for them. Yin Shishir and Gu Xingze took a selfie and posted it on the internet, announcing that they had finished filming their scenes. The fans of the original novel were excited and looked forward to the release of the movie. Yin Shishir couldn't help but feel a little absent-minded after working on the set for more than 2 months. This was her first movie and the entire process was like a dream. She understood that the reason why she and Gu Xingze were filmed together was to take care of her. At the celebratory banquet, Lin Fengtian made a special feature of the behind-the-scenes photos and gave it to her. Chapter 956. Yin Shishir was deeply grateful for this. Being able to work with an outstanding director like Lin Fengtian in her first movie was something she did not even dare to dream of. However, something unpleasant happened during the celebratory banquet. Yin Shishir was arranged to sit at the same table as Yang Mi and Lu Jingtian. During the banquet, when Lu Jingtian stood up to make a toast, she accidentally spilled the red wine in her hand on her. This sudden attack caught her off guard. Yin Shishir's body stiffened slightly as her gaze fell on her dress. The bright red wine spilled on her dress, causing it to bloom like a flower. Lu Jingtian covered her mouth in horror. Oh no. Sure, I didn't do it on purpose. Yin Sure sneered. I know you didn't do it on purpose. How could she say it out loud if she did it on purpose? Yin Sure did not even look at her as she wiped her dress with a wet towel, and sighed helplessly. This dress was ruined. It was just a dress. If it got dirty, she could just throw it away. Hence, she got up and returned to the nanny van, only to find Lu Jingtian following closely behind her. She turned around warily and squinted her eyes. Why are you following me? Yin Sure, you seem to be very pleased with yourself. Lu Jingtian sneered. Her eyes were full of contempt and mockery. Yin Sure raised her brow slightly and sneered. I don't know what you mean. Lu Jingtian's eyes turned sharp as she shouted. You do. After a pause, she suddenly said aggressively. Do you think that you can be so arrogant just because Brother Mu is supporting you? Do you think that he truly loves you? He's only interested in you on a whim. Once this is over, do you think you can still be as doted on as you are today? Yin Sure impatiently interrupted her. Lu Jingtian, I'm tired of hearing such words from you. Song Inya had said such words before too. That Missy and Lu Jingtian were close, so there was a high chance that the Missy had said something to her to disgust her. Lu Jingtian was annoyed at being interrupted, but she then sneered. You're the female lead in this movie. Once it's released, your fame will surely soar. You won't be far from becoming famous overnight. Still, I really look down on you. If not for Brother Mu, you wouldn't be where you are today. Yin Sure blandly replied. I'm famous because of my own capabilities. Lu Jingtian sneered as if she had just heard a joke. Tessie, what a nice thing to say. If Brother Mu hadn't given you so many resources, would you have become so famous? Dream on. Why? Are you that envious of me? Yin Sure chuckled, unable to hide the teasing in her eyes. Of course. Lu Jingtian's face was contorted out of shape. Ow. Lu Jingtian flew into a rage out of humiliation after being exposed by her. What's there to be envious of AB*TCH who relied on the unspoken rules to get to where she is? Yin Sure was unfazed and only said faintly, You're better than someone with mediocre acting skills and poor script skills. You can't even recite a complete line. If not for your background, Director Lin would have fired you long ago. Chapter 957. You're spouting nonsense. There's no such thing. Do you have any acting skills? It's all because you have that face that fits the role of the character in the script. Lu Jingtian did not realize how sour her words were. Yin Sure chuckled. There's a saying. Beauty and luck are also a form of strength. After a pause, she smiled sweetly. If you're capable, why don't you look prettier than me? Lu Jingtian was stunned for a moment before she gritted her teeth. Yin Sure enjoyed the sight of her livid face and smiled. Besides, are you in a position to say that I don't have any acting skills? In terms of strength, I can't be compared to you. Lu Jingtian was exasperated. What kind of power do you have? Do you have the power to be taken advantage of? That's right. Beauty is a form of strength, so are you using your beauty to seduce Brother Mu? Yin Sure, I think you're the reincarnation of a vixen who specializes in seducing men. Yin Sure cast her a sidelong glance. Indeed, summer insects could not talk about ice. Some people were so jealous that they could not be reasoned with. She coldly said, Even without Muyaja, I'll still use my strength to prove myself. Lu Jingtian hooted. If you're capable, don't rely on him. Yin Sure could not be bothered with her as she maintained a cold face. Seeing her indifference, Lu Jingtian gritted her teeth. Suddenly, she thought of something and smiled contemptuously. Actually, I think you're quite pitiful. Yin Sure did not want to bother with her though, so why waste her breath on her? With this thought in mind, she turned around, only to hear her say from behind. Do you know? Brother Mu will be holding a press conference soon to announce his marriage. Yin Sure's footsteps paused. Her body stiffened slightly, but she did not turn around. She furrowed her brows slightly. Lu Jingtian took a few steps toward her from behind, and spoke in a voice full of arrogance. I heard this from my dad too. I heard that Brother Mu is holding a press conference to announce his marriage with Mu Wanru. Hee. In other words, he and Mu Wanru were about to get married. If he really loved you, would he marry another woman? You're just a canary that he's keeping in a cage. He'll play with you when he's happy, and when he's tired of you, it's nothing more than that. That's why I feel sorry for you. You see him as your entire world, but he only sees you as a plaything. Do you really think he cares about you that much? Lu Jingtian was also in love with Muyaja, but to her, Muyaja was undoubtedly high and mighty. She knew that Muyaja and her were like heaven and earth. In her heart he was like a god. But why was Yin Shirshir able to occupy his heart? Receive all of his love. What right did Yin Shirshir have to have what she couldn't have? Yin Shirshir was silent for a long time. Muyaja is going to hold a press conference to announce his marriage? Why didn't he mention this to me? She did not believe that Muyaja would announce his marriage with Mu Wanru at a press conference, but if he had other intentions he should explain it to me clearly, should he not? Yin Shirshir suddenly clutched the corner of her shirt as a conflicted look flashed across her eyes. You see him as your entire world, but he only sees you as a plaything. Was that so? Was that really the case? On the island in the middle of the lake, he had created a mysterious romance for her. In her impression, a man like him had never put in so much effort for anyone. Chapter 958. He had also made a vow to dote on her legitimately. Every time they were intimate, she would look at him with a doting gaze that couldn't be faked. Could it be that those were all lies? Did he do all this for her to deceive her feelings? No way, right? Words could deceive the heart. However, the emotions in his eyes couldn't be deceived no matter what. She regarded him as her whole world. He, on the other hand, used the whole world to protect her. Why should she listen to someone else's one-sided statement and doubt him then? Yin Shirshir turned around expressionlessly and sneered when she saw the smug look on the other's face. Lu Jingtian was taken aback when she saw her laughing instead of being angry. You're really thick-skinned. How can you be so cheap and still laugh shamelessly? Yin Shirshir's eyes were full of contempt as she coldly said, Lu Jingtian, you're the pitiful one, aren't you? What? Do you know how Muyaja treats me? Do you know how he feels about me? Lu Jingtian choked hard. Yin Shirshir's lips curled into a smile that she found extremely dazzling. Like is different from love. Love is unconditional trust, so I believe him. As for you, who are you? What right do you have to sow discord here? Lu Jingtian laughed in anger. Sow discord? Haha. You're really pitiful. It seems that you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. I'm really looking forward to the day you're abandoned. You must be in a sorry state. All right then. Let's wait and see. Yin Shirshir said nonchalantly. Lu Jingtian's smile disappeared at her words, and she became angry out of humiliation. Yin Shirshir, however, merely smiled and turned to leave. She clenched her fists tightly, feeling a nameless fire in her heart. She was so angry that she lost her rationality. She actually took a few steps forward and grabbed Yin Shirshir's arm. You're not allowed to leave. Did I say you could leave? I'm not done yet. She originally wanted to humiliate her, but she ended up being humiliated instead. She was filled with grievances and had nowhere to vent them. Yin Shirshir was pulled hard by her and fell to the ground. Lu Jingtian cursed coldly. She flipped over and straddled the woman before slapping her face a few times like a shrew. I'll kill you, you vixen. Born with a seductive face, she seduced men everywhere. I don't know what kind of ability you have, or what kind of charm you have. Not only is Brother Xingzi so smitten by you, even Brother Mu has fallen for your seduction. I'll beat you to death, you bitch. I'll kill you. How could Yin Shirshir be willing to submit obediently? How could she be the kind to be slaughtered? Did she not know how to retaliate when Lu Jingtian hit her? Hence, she grabbed Lu Jingtian's arm with all her strength. Perhaps, she had been humiliated to the extreme, but she somehow managed to push the other away with all her strength. She stood up, and Lu Jingtian was about to pounce on her again. Yin Shirshir nimbly dodged, and the latter fell to the ground, caught off guard. Yin Shirshir then turned around and pinned her down, strangling her neck. Ah! How dare you strangle me? Lu Jingtian cursed. Her usual ladylike demeanor in the production team was gone, and she was like a crazy shrew. Chapter 959. Yin Shirshir returned all the slaps she had received from her earlier, and gave her a few hard slaps. If you like him, compete with him openly. I despise people like you the most for resorting to such despicable means. With that, Yin Shishir gave her a few more slaps without hesitation. Lu Jingtian's legs kicked wildly, but Yin Shishir suddenly choked her with a little force. Don't move. Yin Shishir threatened angrily. Lu Jingtian's face flushed red, but she still glared at her defiantly. However, when she felt a suffocating sensation on her neck, she widened her eyes in disbelief. This woman is really using all her strength to choke me. I can't breathe. Lu Jingtian's hands clutched her wrists tightly, her sharp nails leaving deep bloody marks on the back of her hands. Yin Shishir, on the other hand, did not seem to be afraid of pain or the woman's threatening gestures. Seeing that the latter was still cursing and swearing, she increased the strength in her hands. Lu Jingtian felt suffocated and could no longer utter a word. It was as if she would faint in the next second. Yin Shishir saw that her face was flushed red, as if blood was about to drip out, and loosened her grip slightly. She had only pinched her to scare her. She wanted her to know that she was not to be trifled with even if she was usually docile. Lu Jingtian, I'm warning you. I won't attack unless I'm attacked, but if someone attacks me, I won't tolerate it to the end either. With that, Yin Shishir stood up, glared at her coldly, and walked away swiftly. Lu Jingtian got up from the ground, feeling aggrieved and afraid. Tears streamed down her face and wet her clothes. Yin Shishir's gaze earlier was too scary. Now that she thought about it carefully, she was both shocked and frightened. Yin Shishir was really bold. How dare she strangle her? She had never been hit by anyone at this age. Even when she made a mistake when she was young, her parents could not bear to hit her. This Yin Shishir was the first person who dared to lay a hand on her. At the thought of this, she was overwhelmed with grievances. She originally wanted to go back to the celebration party, but now she was angered by Yin Shishir. Her dress was dirty, and she was in a sorry state. Besides, she had lost her appetite, so she went straight to the lounge, picked up her phone and called her niece. The moment the call got through, she burst into tears. Song Inya was startled by her cries and hurriedly inquired about what had happened. The two of them were best friends from junior high school to university, and their relationship was very close. Lu Jingtian recounted what had happened to her niece with exaggerated details. She could not stop complaining. Enya, she actually hit me and even pinched me. You didn't see how overboard she was. She really pinched me hard. Song Inya consoled her for a while, only to hear the other lashing out indignantly. Enya, how could there be such a disgusting woman in this world? This woman is really disgusting. What right does she have to shout at me? She even said that we'll wait and see. I'm really looking forward to seeing her fall to rock bottom. I really want to see how down and out Brother Mu is when he abandons her. Jingtian, don't be sad. Did she really pinch you? Song Inya was still in disbelief. Chapter 960. Song Inya was furious. Yin Shishir was really arrogant to dare offend them. Last time it was her, and this time, it was Lu Jingtian. How could she be so arrogant? Hence, she said to Lu Jingtian, Jingtian, don't be sad. Don't worry, I'll definitely avenge you. Okay. Lu Jingtian asked with teary eyes. How do you plan to take revenge? Just listen to my arrangements when the time comes. Back home, Yin Shishir went to the bathroom to take a shower. Her body was stained with mud from the scuffle with Lu Jingtian earlier. She washed her body carefully and changed into a white dress. Standing in front of the mirror, she lowered her head to look at her arm. The bloody scratches caused by Lu Jingtian were gradually fading, and there was a scratch on the back of her hand from the latter's nails. The wound was very shallow. It was just a layer of skin, so there was no need to put a bandage on it. After dinner, Yu and Xiaoyichen went to the courtyard to play badminton. The two little guys had been sticking together recently. Whether it was sleeping or doing homework, Xiaoyichen liked to stick to Yu. As for Yu, although she despised Xiaoyichen's stupidity on the surface, she gradually opened her heart to Xiaoyichen and became more cheerful. Yin Shishir sat on the sofa, recalling Lu Jingtian's words in her mind. She felt inexplicably vexed. When Mu Yaja returned from the office, he opened the door and saw her alone on the sofa. The lights in the living room were off, and she was leaning against the corner of the sofa quietly. It seemed that she had fallen asleep. He walked to her side and turned on the lights, which woke her up. She opened her eyes, still in a daze. Her eyes were half open, and she seemed to be in a daze. She looked very innocent. However, because of her pair of seductive peach blossom eyes, she looked lazy and seductive. Seeing that he had returned, she immediately sat up and raised her head to look at him. With a faint smile, she said in a hoarse voice, "You're back." He glanced at the table and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yes, I have," she suddenly added. "You went to play badminton with Xiaoi Chen." As she spoke, she looked behind him. Where's the dog?" Muyaja said. "In the courtyard playing with two little guys." "Oh." He sat down on the sofa and saw that her hair was slightly messy, so he reached out and tucked a few strands of her hair behind her ear. His touch quickly scalded the tips of her ears. They were red, as if she was shy. Yin Shirshir suddenly remembered what had happened today. She pursed her lips and wanted to ask something. She tentatively opened her mouth, but didn't know where to start. Muyaja saw the strange expression on her face. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "What's wrong? Why do you look so pale?" Today the production team held a celebration party. Yin Shirshir looked at him and opened her mouth. She wanted to say something but stopped herself. In the end, she didn't say anything. She also didn't ask about the media conference. Since she had chosen to believe him, she would believe him unconditionally until the end. Although she didn't understand the purpose of his media conference, she didn't believe that he would announce his marriage with Mu Wanru. Although she didn't understand why he kept her in the dark, she believed that he had his reasons for doing so. Chapter 961. Thus she looked up and smiled. "Let's go for a walk." There was a very beautiful river in Beijing. At night, the riverside would be lit up with warm neon lights. It was very beautiful. Standing by the riverside and leaning against the railing, one could see the tallest building in Beijing. It was the symbol of Beijing, a colorful television tower. Both of them were extremely busy and rarely had time to take a leisurely stroll together. Muyaja had pushed off many things today, so he finally had some free time. The neon lights of the night market. Yin Shirshir held onto Muyaja's arm as they walked. She saw many young couples sitting on the benches by the riverside, snuggling together and whispering sweet nothings. It was very romantic. It suddenly occurred to her that she and he seemed to have had very few serious engagements. Thus she tugged at Muyaja's sleeve and said with a smile, "Muyaja, go on a date with me." Upon hearing this, Muyaja followed her line of sight and smiled faintly. "We're already an old married couple, yet you still want to learn how to date like a youngster?" Yin Shirshir's face darkened, and she muttered unhappily, "We're not old. I'm only 24. I'm not old yet. Also, who's an old married couple with you? We've been together for so long, and we've never gone on a date like other couples." "Alright then. How do you want to go on a date?" Yin Shirshir was unhappy. "Why does it seem like I'm forcing you?" Muyaja saw her aggrieved face and was amused. He crossed his arms and asked, "Then, Miss Yin Shirshir, are you willing to go on a date with me?" Yin Shirshir couldn't help but be amused. However, she restrained her smile and said reservedly, "I'll reluctantly agree." She couldn't help but think how blissful it was for them to be able to go on a date like a normal couple. If at this time the two of them could sit side by side on a bench by the river and admire the beautiful night scenery, she would be very satisfied. Yin Shirshir was about to pull Muyaja over to the bench, but she suddenly noticed that this guy was looking at a couple not far away with a thoughtful expression. She followed his line of sight and saw a couple hugging and kissing each other intimately. The woman's clothes were half removed to her shoulders, revealing her sexy spaghetti strap, while the man's hands were unscrupulously reaching into the woman's clothes, caressing her with abandon. The two of them acted intimately as if no one else was around, occasionally letting out suppressed gasps. The two of them were so engrossed in their kiss that they didn't seem to mind the scrutiny of the passers-by. The battle was getting more and more intense. Could it be that the two of them were going to put on a show of passion on the streets? So explosive? Yin Shirshir blushed and her heart raced as she watched. She quickly turned her head away and didn't look anymore. Muyaja turned his face. His eyes were calm as he sized up Yin Shirshir's awkward expression. His lips curled into a sinister smile as he whispered in her ear. I heard that this method makes it easier for people to feel sweet passion. Why don't we give it a try? Yin Shirshir almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face burned even hotter. What are you trying to do? Isn't it good to take advantage of the night to do some exercise that's good for the body and mind? Get lost. Yin Shirshir turned her head and casually pointed at a puff factory not far away. She changed the topic. Muyaja, I want to eat puffs. Chapter 962. Stupid woman. She really couldn't take a joke. Muyaja held her hand and walked into the cozy little shop. When they walked in, they saw a child crouching excitedly in front of the bar counter, his watery eyes shining with anticipation. A short-haired woman stood by the side and looked helplessly at the child's silly look. She couldn't help but pinch his cheeks. Yin Shirshir looked at him and couldn't help but think of Yu when he was 2 or 3 years old. Yu especially liked desserts. Sometimes, when Yin Shirshir got off work early, she would take him to the dessert shop. The little guy was like that too. He would tiptoe in front of the display cabinet and look greedily at the desserts displayed in the refrigerator. But he wouldn't do that now. Yin Shirshir ordered a set of matcha-flavored puffs and sat quietly at the bar counter with Muyaja. The shop owner placed a cream puff on the bar counter. The child couldn't wait to grab a cream puff with each hand and greedily put it into his mouth. The shop owner was tickled by his cute appearance and laughed. Your child is so cute. The woman frowned and said mildly, how about I give the cute puff to you? This little guy is very naughty. Startled, Yin Shirshir turned to look at the woman with a smile. However, the woman patted the child's head lazily and said, this little guy is very troublesome. With that said, the woman rubbed the child's fine hair on his forehead and complained half-jokingly, don't be fooled by how obedient he looks now. When he's naughty, it's really a headache. Children, especially boys, are all naughty, the shop owner said with a smile. However, Muyaja lazily put his arm around Yin Shirshir's shoulder and said slowly, when my son was your age, he was also very naughty. Yin Shirshir was slightly surprised. She didn't expect Muyaja to be like a normal person and chat with others. It felt a little strange. Perhaps the image of Muyaja in front of her had always been that of a high and mighty elite of the empire. The ruler of a storm of blood, like a god. Unexpectedly, he had such a normal side to him. Yin Shirshir blushed a little. What? Muyaja was a normal person. Haha, really? The woman was slightly surprised. Handsome, how old are you? You don't look like someone who has a child. 28. Wow, so young. Is this your lover? Muyaja lowered his head and glanced at Yin Shirshir, who was leaning against him. Then he smiled gently and his eyes were filled with affection. Yes. She is my wife. Yin Shirshir's face turned even redder. She buried her face shyly. She is my wife. This sentence really made her blush and her heart beat faster. Immediately, a warm current flowed into her heart. For the first time in her life, she felt such an unfamiliar warmth. The woman walked out of the shop with the child. Muyaja stared at the woman's back until they disappeared into the night. Then he slowly retracted his gaze. Yin Shirshir waved the bag of puffs in front of his eyes and asked puzzledly, Muyaja, what's wrong with you? Muyaja came back to his senses and smiled as he shook his head and said, nothing. I just feel a little envious. Yin Shirshir didn't understand the meaning of his words for a moment. Sometimes I really envy such an ordinary and simple family, Muyaja said sincerely. Chapter 963. Yin Shirshir was stunned. It was rare to hear such sentimental words from him. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel curious. Yin Shirshir stared at him with interest. Muyaja cast a sidelong glance at her. What are you looking at? Let's go. Wait. Yin Shirshir grabbed his hand, picked up the phone, and pulled him to her side. She pressed her face against his cheek, raised the phone, and turned on the camera. Come smile. What do you want to do? Yin Shirshir said, smile. We haven't taken a photo together yet. Muyaja raised his eyebrows. Don't put on such a serious expression. It's very scary. Smile for me. Muyaja looked at the camera blankly and suddenly revealed a cold smile. Click. Yin Shirshir took a photo and looked at it. She raised her eyebrows and said unhappily, Muyaja, your smile is so evil. Evil? Yin Shirshir didn't care anymore. She took a few photos and sent them to her private channel happily. What do you think of the couple's faces? Someone's smile is so evil. She looked up and asked, Muyaja, do you have a Weibo account? I didn't apply for one. Why didn't you apply for one? You're too outdated. Yin Shirshir couldn't help but criticize. Muyaja laughed. Not interested. Apply for one. I'll get it certified for you. I don't want to. Why not? It's a little troublesome. Then I'll get it for you. Muyaja was helpless. Weibo is boring. I don't understand what's so fun about it. Mr. Muyaja, your life is so boring. As she spoke, Yin Shirshir took out a small puffball and brought it to his lips. She said with a smile, Come try this shop's puff. It's delicious. Muyaja frowned slightly as he looked at the bubble ball. His face was full of unwillingness, but he didn't open his mouth. He didn't have a sweet tooth and had never eaten puffs before. Yin Shirshir saw the look of disgust on his face and complained. Why do you have such an expression? I'm feeding you puffs, not arsenic. Why do you look like I'm poisoning you? Muyaja said, I don't like it. Then have a taste. It's very delicious. Come on. She stuffed it into his mouth as she spoke. Muyaja was forced to take a bite. In an instant, the rich cream filled his mouth. He didn't like the taste. He couldn't swallow or spit it out. He frowned deeply. Yin Shirshir saw his face turn green and her eyes widened in shock. She asked in confusion, Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Muyaja opened his mouth and took a bite. The cream filled his mouth. He opened his eyes in shock. He clearly saw that the ball was round, but he didn't expect it to be wrapped in cream. He didn't like sweet things, especially cream. He would feel nauseous when he ate it. Seeing his face turn green, Yin Shirshir was shocked. She quickly asked, What's wrong? Does it taste bad? Muyaja held it in and didn't spit it out. After swallowing it, he suddenly felt sick of the taste in his stomach. Yin Shirshir saw that his expression was too cute, and suddenly smiled mischievously. She made another puffball and waved it in front of him. Then she took a bite in front of him. Chapter 964. It was rare for Yin Shirshir to see such an expression on his face. She found it extremely interesting and swallowed a few more puffs. Her mouth was full and cream stained her lips. Muyaja furrowed his brows and turned his head away from her. Yin Shirshir burst out laughing and said, So you don't like cream? Muyaja said disdainfully, It's the way you eat that's too disgusting. Yin Shirshir fell silent. Seeing that he had walked ahead, she quickly followed behind him and offered him the puffs in a fawning manner. She raised her brows and asked, Hee, I still have a few more puffs here. Aren't you going to eat them? Muyaja turned his head away. Nope. Yin Shirshir sighed and stood unhappily at the same spot. All right. It was fine if he didn't like it. Why did he have to show such an expression? It was as though he despised the food she was eating. She lowered her head and pouted her lips resentfully. She picked up the last puffball and bit it. Before she could swallow it, her chin was lifted up by a hand. Yin Shirshir looked up and saw Muyaja's handsome face suddenly magnified. His long and narrow eyes were curled up devilishly, and his thin lips were slightly parted. Right after that, he gently bit the other half of the puff she was biting. His lips gently pressed against hers and cream flowed out. He curled his lips slightly and the tip of his tongue hooked the cream at the corner of her lips and licked it. The kiss was so gentle that Yin Shirshir was so shocked that her face and ears turned red. She was stunned on the spot and couldn't say a word for a long time. Muyaja bit off half of the puff and looked up. There was a smug smile at the corner of his lips as though he hadn't had enough yet. The tip of his tongue hooked the cream on his lips and he said casually, It tastes pretty good. She didn't know if he was talking about the puffs, or if he was referring to something else with his teasing tone. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger. She said coquettishly, You. Before she could finish speaking, her hand was gently held by him. Muyaja lowered his head to look at her and asked, Have you enjoyed yourself? Ah. What? First date. Muyaja smiled and rubbed her hair. It's already so late. Can we go back now? Yin Shirshir originally wanted to nod, But when she thought that she would have to sleep after going back, she was a little unwilling, so she said, "Let's wait a little longer. It's still early." Muyaja glanced at her coldly. He reached out and handed her his watch. "What time is it now?" he asked with a frown. Yin Shirshir glanced at it and answered obediently, "It's 11 o'clock. It's already so late. I have to go back to the company." Thinking of the mountain of cases in the company, Muyaja felt a headache coming on. Upon hearing that he was going back to the company, the smile on Yin Shirshir's face suddenly froze. "Muyaja, can you not go to the company?" She needed him. She was already used to him. She was used to the sense of security in his arms when she opened her eyes every day. She was also used to the fresh fragrance of his hair on the pillow. She couldn't bear to part with him. Muyaja held her chin and pressed the tip of his nose against hers. "What? You can't bear to part with me? I want you to accompany me." Yin Shirshir stammered a few words. Muyaja looked at her and his eyes changed slightly. However, she wrapped her arms around his waist. "I want you to accompany me. Don't go to the company. Stay at home with me tonight, okay?" "Okay, let's go home." Muyaja smiled and pulled her wrist to the car parked by the roadside. "Be good. Go back and rest early." Chapter 965. The indulgence in his words made her feel a tinge of sweetness. Holding her hand like this, with such a tall man walking in front of her and holding her hand tightly, she didn't know why, but there was a trace of satisfaction in her heart that even she couldn't detect. That night, she pushed aside the company's affairs. He did not stay up late and slept with her early. In the dark, Yin Shirshir hugged his waist tightly and rested her head on his chest to listen to his strong heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. Just listening to his heartbeat made her feel at ease. Yin Shirshir could not help hugging him tighter. However, just as she was about to fall asleep, Lu Jingtian's mocking laughter rang in her mind again. "You're just a canary in his cage. He'll play with you when he's happy, but when he's tired of you, that's all there is to it. That's why I think you're quite pitiful. You see him as your whole world, but he only sees you as a plaything. Do you really think he cares about you that much?" Her voice was so real and ear-piercing that it seemed to be ringing in her ears. Yin Shirshir was suddenly jolted awake by the words that suddenly flashed in her mind. Even though she was well aware that Lu Jingtian's words were only meant to provoke her, she still felt a little uneasy. Women were always insecure. In fact, she was also an extremely insecure person. Some were easily swayed by personal gains and losses. This was especially so when her man was such a high and mighty figure, who could call the wind and summon the rain. A dragon among men. There were naturally many women who coveted him. Would he really be faithful to her though? Yin Shirshir raised her head and looked at the man. At this moment, in the dark, his eyes were closed. The darkness seemed to give him something even more charming. Exquisite facial features, deep brows, and handsome silhouette. Especially those long and narrow eyes. Even if his eyes were closed, they still exuded an insufferably arrogant aura of looking down on all living things. He was a man who was as arrogant as a god. Even though he was right by her side, she still felt that it was a little unreal. She suddenly leaned closer to him and planted a kiss on his thin lips. The taste of kissing him was so wonderful that she couldn't help but move her lips for a long time. She covered his warm lips with the tip of her tongue, and gently pried open the gap between his lips before sliding in. The man suddenly opened his eyes and cast a sidelong glance at her. Yin Shirshir immediately raised her head. Seeing that he had woken up, her face blushed and she shyly pursed her lips. You didn't sleep?" She looked embarrassed and laughed dryly. This was the first time she took the initiative to kiss him, and he actually bumped into her. Thus, she felt a little embarrassed. In fact, he had already fallen asleep. However, he had always been a light sleeper, and would wake up at the slightest movement. When he opened his eyes, she took the initiative to kiss him. For a moment, he was a little surprised. He had never seen her so proactive before. "What? Aren't you going to continue?" His voice was hoarse, revealing a hint of suppressed gloominess. With that, he flipped over and pressed her under his body. Using the incomplete kiss from before, he kissed her deeply on the lips. He suddenly sank into her. Only when they had enjoyed themselves to their heart's content did they stop. Before he fell asleep, he hugged her. The woman in his arms was already exhausted, and her body was unbelievably limp after their lovemaking. The two fell asleep in each other's arms. Chapter 966. Early in the morning, the sky was still slightly bright. Yin Shirshir was woken up by the movement beside her. By the time she woke up, Muyaja was already dressed in a suit and leather shoes. This man always recovered his energy at lightning speed. She was still so tired, but he was already full of energy. She was a little envious of him. Seeing that she had opened her eyes, he sat by the bed and gently caressed her cheek. "Why are you awake? Sleep a little more." Yin Shirshir raised her hand and covered the back of his hand. "Are you going to the office?" Muyaja planted a kiss on her forehead. "Yes. You continue sleeping. I'm leaving." With that, he got up and prepared to leave. Yin Shirshir suddenly sat up and called out to him. "Muyaja." The man turned around. She bit her lower lip and suddenly asked, "Will you be back today?" Her face was filled with anticipation. Muyaja glanced at her and then said in a deep voice, "I'll be back early." After saying that, he closed the door and left. Yin Shirshir lay back on the bed and closed her eyes for a while before getting up to prepare breakfast. She then personally sent the two little lads to school. In the afternoon, Yin Shirshir brought the two little lads home. The weather was hot, so Xiao Yichen pestered Yu to go out to buy ice cream. Although Yu was unwilling, she could not resist his pestering and went out with him. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Yin Shirshir felt strange. Did the two little guys forget to bring money? Thus she hurriedly opened the door. Just as she opened the door, a familiar face came into view. Song Enya. She was startled to see Lu Jingtian standing beside her niece and an unfamiliar man beside her. "Yin Shirshir, it turns out that Brother Mu is hiding you in his golden house and hiding you here." She then kicked the door wide open and walked in with Lu Jingtian. Yin Shirshir took a few steps back. Her face turned cold. These two people came in a menacing manner. Their faces were unfriendly. It was obvious that they were here for revenge. With a ferocious look in her eyes, Song Enya grabbed her arm the moment she walked in. Her grip was so strong that it almost left a red mark on her wrist. It was as if she could not wait to break her bones. Yin Shirshir struggled, but with a look from the Missy, Lu Jingtian stepped forward and grabbed her other arm. This time, Yin Shirshir was completely immobilized. "Brother, come quickly. It's this B*TC. It's her. She hit me last time, and she hit Jingtian yesterday. She shamelessly seduced Brother Mu and bullied me. It's her. Come in and take a good look at this bitch's face." Song Enya called toward the door. Following that, Song Yunshi strode in. The tall figure stood in front of her and looked down at her with a frosty expression. Muyaja rushed home and gave Song Enya a slap. Yin Shirshir looked at the man in front of her. The man in front of her was tall and lean, but his aristocratic aura was there. One look and she could tell that he was rich and respectable. He exuded a neat and experienced aura. With just one look, she could tell that this man was from the military. He had a steel-like military aura. Song Yunshi was still young, but he was already a captain in the capital's military. He looked at Yin Shirshir and sized her up. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's beak. "Are you the one who bullied my sister?" His tone was arrogant and cold. "Bully." Chapter 967. What are you doing? What do you think? Song Enya was the first to give her a tight slap. This slap was not careless at all. It directly slapped Yin Shirshir's face to the side, and a red handprint quickly appeared on her cheek. Yin Shirshir staggered a few steps backward. Her hair was disheveled from the slap, and she looked extremely disheveled. She covered her face, feeling a burning pain on it. She thought to herself, this Song Enya is probably relying on the fact that she has the advantage in numbers to be so overbearing. It's as if she can't wait to slap my face. Her ears, which had just recovered, immediately buzzed. What are you all doing? Yin Shirshir raised her head and shouted. Her eyes immediately emitted a cold glint as she glared fiercely at Song Enya. Lu Jingtian was immediately intimidated by her murderous glare. She did not know if she was pretending or not, but she pursed her lips and stomped her feet as she said to Song Yunshi, "Brother Yunshi, look. This woman's eyes look as if she can't wait to skin us alive. She's so fierce." Song Yunqi glared at her and then said coldly, Enya Jingtian, don't be afraid. If this woman dares to do anything to you, I'm still here. Emph. This be *tch. I'm afraid of dirtying my hands by slapping her. Lu Jingtian snorted. Even though she said that, she gathered all her strength and slapped her in the next second. Yin Shirshir sneered and said angrily, You guys are really capable. 3 people bullying 1 person? What is this? Are you bullying me with numbers? Song Enya was like a spoiled little princess at this moment, looking down at her condescendingly as if she were looking at a lowly commoner. What a fierce mouth. Yin Shirshir, let me tell you, no one has ever hit me in my life. You, on the other hand, are the first to hit me. Who do you think you are? How dare you try to bully me? Ha! You're just a commoner. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because Brother Mu dotes on you? Do you know who I am? How dare you hit me? Do you believe that I can chop off your cheap hand and no one will say anything? Yin Shirshir was so infuriated that she burst into laughter when she heard that. Song Enya was too arrogant. How dare she threaten to chop off her hand? Is there no law? Are you trying to use your power to oppress others in broad daylight? Law. Song Enya laughed as if she had just heard the funniest joke in the world. She then said coldly, Yin Shirshir, my words are the law now. If you obediently kowtow and apologize to me now, I can consider whether to let you go and not pursue this matter. Apologize. Kowtow? Yin Shirshir couldn't take it anymore. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. Why should I kowtow and apologize to you? What did I do wrong? Stubborn bitch. I think you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Don't think that you don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is just because Brother Mu dotes on you. Enya is from the Song family. Haven't you heard of the capital's Song family? Ha! Even if you're superficial and ignorant, you should know who the current mayor of the capital is. You've offended Enya. This isn't something that can be overturned with just a few words of apology. As she spoke, she pushed Yin Shirshir to the ground and started fighting with her. Chapter 968. The Songs? So what if they're from the Song family? Do they think they can trample and humiliate people's dignity just because they have a bit of family background? Yin Shirshir grabbed Lu Jingtian's hand and, with a tug, pulled her to the ground. She then flipped her body over and pinned her on top of her, returning the slaps she had given her earlier. Lu Jingtian struggled violently, and Song Enya pounced on Yin Shirshir to wrestle with her. When women fought, it was nothing more than pulling hair and slapping faces. Song Enya and Lu Jingtian used such despicable methods to the extreme. Lu Jingtian, in particular, grabbed Yin Shirshir's hair and refused to let go. Song Enya gave Yin Shirshir a few more slaps. In the midst of the fight, Yin Shirshir's lips had a deep cut, and blood was seeping out. Yin Shirshir felt a metallic taste flowing into her mouth. When she noticed that the corner of her lips had been cut, a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Song Enya was so anxious that she did not pay attention to her strength and pinched and hit Yin Shirshir. At this moment, they had completely lost their usual elegant demeanor. They were ruthless and could not wait to tear Yin Shirshir's annoying face apart. For a moment, Lu Jingtian and Song Enya had the upper hand by working together. However, what was the saying? Even a rabbit would bite when cornered. For some reason, Yin Shirshir was forced to lose her rationality. She did not know where she got her strength from, but even Song Enya and Lu Jingtian could not hold her back. Seeing that the situation had gone out of control, Song Yunqi could only watch helplessly as Yin Shirshir slapped Song Enya's face. She could not stand it anymore. She stepped forward and pushed Lu Jingtian and Song Enya away. Then, she grabbed Yin Shirshir's hands with one hand and dragged her to the center of the living room. Yin Shirshir felt the pain of her wrist being dislocated. Then she was thrown to the ground. Her back collided with the cold tiles, and the pain made her suck in a breath of cold air. Song Yunqi's anger rose from her heart. He had always doted on Enya as she grew up, and he had never once let her get hurt. His beloved sister was being bullied by this woman. For a moment, Song Yunqi couldn't care less about his so-called gentlemanly demeanor. He viciously grabbed her neck, his eyes bloodshot. Brother! Hit her hard. Beat her to death. Song Enya covered her face, which was stinging from Yin Shirshir's slap earlier. and hooted with a ferocious look. At this moment, the footsteps of the two little munchkins could be heard from outside the door. Yin Tianyu saw that the door was wide open, and immediately heard some discordant sounds. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly walked to the door. Just as he reached the living room, he saw Song Yunxi strangling Yin Shishir. His eyes widened in shock, and the ice cream in his hand fell to the ground. "What's wrong?" Xiao Yichen, who was behind him, rushed into the living room. When he saw the heart-wrenching scene in front of him, anger surfaced on his face. In his anger, he crushed the ice cream cup in his hand. "What are you doing? Let go of my mommy." Xiao Yichen ran forward and kicked Song Yunxi's knee. This angry kick was equivalent to 80% of an adult's strength. Even Song Yunxi, who was well trained in the military, could not withstand it. She felt a sharp pain in her knee, and she staggered a few steps back before falling to the ground. This lad's strength is D*MN amazing. Chapter 969. Xiao Yichen spread his arms in front of Yin Shishir to protect her. However, when he saw the intruders' faces clearly, he was shocked. It was actually Song Inya and Song Yunxi. Yu also ran forward in a panic. He walked to Yin Shishir's side and squatted down. He saw that Yin Shishir's hair was messy, her face was red and swollen, and the corner of her mouth was bleeding profusely. He was so shocked that his heart almost stopped at that moment. His heart ached so much that he almost suffocated. Tears gushed out in an instant as he called hoarsely, "Mommy." Xiao Yichen turned his head and saw Yin Shishir in a sorry state. His heart ached terribly. He looked at her body and saw that it was covered with grayish-black footprints. It was a tragic sight. Only God knew what had happened not long after they left. Song Inya was slightly surprised to see Xiao Yichen. When she saw Yin Tianyu behind him, who looked exactly like him, she was momentarily stunned. How this child looked exactly like Xiao Yichen. Twins. Her first reaction was that Xiao Yichen and Yin Tianyu were twins. When she heard how close Yu and Yin Shishir were, could it be that this child was secretly hidden by Yin Shishir? Her thoughts quickly reorganized. She quickly came up with a conspiracy theory. Could it be that Yin Shishir had given birth to twins as a surrogate for the Mu family back then, and hid one of the children for her own selfish desires? She then used the child to rise in status because of her son. Was she trying to use the child to climb up the social ladder? No wonder. No wonder Brother Mu doted on this woman so much. Wasn't that all because of the child? Yin Shishir was really a shrewd woman. She actually used the child to climb up the social ladder. Since ancient times, the status of a woman in a wealthy family rose because of her son. The same goes for the Mu family. Once she figured it out, the disdain and anger on Song Inya's face deepened. She pointed at Yin Shishir and cursed. "T'sich, you're really shrewd. She's actually hiding the Mu family's heir, trying to use her son to rise in status and marry into a rich family. To think that you have such wild ambitions. Brother Mu must have been fooled by you." "Shut up," Xiao Yichen and Yu said in unison. Song Yunxi stood up. When she looked up, she saw Xiao Yichen and Yu standing in front of Yin Shishir. She was also stunned. He had seen Xiao Yichen before, but who was the other child? Brother, did you see that?" Song Inya tugged at her brother's arm and pointed at Yin Shishir. "This woman is a surrogate for Brother Mu, but she's hiding one of the children. She's delusional to think that she can become a phoenix just because of her child. Yin Shishir is really a scheming woman." Yu calmed himself down and helped Yin Shishir to sit on the sofa. When he turned his head, his face was frosty. His clear eyes, in particular, were emitting a blood-red murderous aura. His gloomy and powerful aura quickly spread to every corner of the living room. Lu Jingtian, who was standing at the side, felt an inexplicable chill and her shoulders shivered. Yu clenched his fists and stared at them with his beautiful eyes. "Who are you?" Song Inya snorted. "Children shouldn't interfere in adult matters. This is my house. You're not allowed to mess around in my house." Yin Tianyu reminded her coldly in a domineering tone. Chapter 970. At this moment, she actually saw the shadow of Mu Yaja in him, especially that pair of cold and domineering eyes. It was as if they were a carbon copy. Yu pointed at the door and said in a tone that brooked no argument, "Get out." Why should I get out? Song Inya lost her temper and blurted out. You little rascal, your mouth is quite cheap. Your mother is a cheap wretch, and so are you. Get out. Leave before my patience runs out. Yu pointed at the door with a murderous glint in his eyes. Don't appear in front of my mommy again. Seeing your shrewish faces makes me lose my appetite. He had never scolded anyone because his mommy had taught him that boys must be gentlemanly and elegant toward girls. However, seeing his mommy being bullied by these few people, he hated Song Inya to the core. How could he still be gentlemanly toward her? You. How dare you call me a shrew? Song Inya furiously stepped forward and raised her hand to slap his face. However, just as she was about to land on the ground, Little Yichen stopped her with his quick reflexes and held her wrist tightly. Yin Shirshir hurriedly shielded Yu in her arms. When Xiao Yichen thought of how Song Inya had called his mommy and brother cheap wretches, an uncontrollable anger rose in his heart. He held Song Inya's wrist tightly and raised his eyes to glare at her. With a crack, Song Inya's wrist was dislocated by him. Ah! Song Inya let out a tragic shriek and retreated a few steps. She held her wrist and hid behind Song Yunxi. Lu Jingtian looked at her hand and exclaimed, Ah! Inya, your hand is dislocated. Her exclamation attracted Song Yunxi's attention. He lifted Song Inya's hand and saw that it was indeed dislocated. Tears streamed down Song Inya's face as she whimpered in pain. Song Yunxi's eyes were filled with heartache when she heard this. She could not care less as she carried Song Inya in her arms and hurriedly left. When Lu Jingtian saw Song Yunxi carrying Song Inya away, she followed closely behind. Before she left, she turned back to glare at Yin Shirshir. Just as she was about to open her mouth to scold her, Yin Tianyu and Xiao Yichen's cold gazes swept over her. Her heart shuddered slightly, and her lips quivered. Thus, she stomped her feet resentfully and left unwillingly. After he left, Yin Shirshir finally let down her guard. Her whole body went limp on the ground. She lowered her head and tried her best to hold back the humiliation and grievance. She bit her lips and tears welled up in her eyes. Why did they have to humiliate her like this? Why? Could it be that with power and influence, one could disregard human dignity? Could it be that with power and influence, one could easily trample on other people's dignity? Yin Tianyu supported her by the shoulders. Seeing her in such a sorry state, his heart ached terribly. It was as if a small knife had sliced open a bloody wound on his chest. Even though he was not hurt physically, his heart still ached terribly. Mommy, does it hurt? Xiao Yichen hugged her shoulders as well. His heart ached so much that his eyes were wet. He pursed his lips tightly and hugged Yin Shirshir's shoulders tighter. Yu hurriedly rummaged through the drawers and drawers to find the first aid kit. He then took out some cotton and carefully wiped her wound. Yin Shirshir bit her lip and wanted to do it herself. Yin Tianyu dodged her outstretched hand though. Mommy, don't move. Be good and sit there. Chapter 971. Her body was riddled with scratches of various sizes, all of which were caused by her niece's and Lu Jingtian's nails. There were some places that didn't break, but there were some places where the force was too great. The skin was broken, and traces of blood flowed out. There was an especially deep cut on her elbow. Yin Tianyu dipped a cotton ball in some ointment and applied it carefully, but his tears flowed uncontrollably and landed on her arm. His heart ached so much. Why did they do this to Mommy? His heart ached so much that he felt like suffocating. He would rather bear the pain from Yin Shirshir's injuries on himself. Xiao Yichen carefully tidied up her messy hair. He loosened her hair tie and combed it with a comb, causing a clump of hair to fall off. Ah! Xiao Yichen received quite a shock. His eyes turned red. He even lost so much hair. Just how intense was the battle he had just experienced? This was too much. How could they bully Mommy? Little Yichen gritted his teeth. His face was flushed red with anger, and he had nowhere to vent his pent-up anger. Yu carefully applied ointment on her wounds, and then held Yin Shirshir's face in his hands. His heart ached when he saw the bloody cut on the corner of her lips. Yu give Mommy a kiss. Mommy doesn't feel pain. Yu pecked the corner of her lips a few times. His warm little mouth touched her wound as if it could alleviate her pain. Yin Shirshir hugged the two little lads in her arms. She was so upset that she held back her grievances. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. Mommy, Yu is here. Yu will protect you and won't let the bad guys bully you. Yu choked with grief. It's Yu's fault. Yu shouldn't have left Mommy's side. Mommy is hurt. Yu is so heartbroken. Yu. Yin Shirshir's voice was hoarse and broken. Yu hugged her even tighter. Mommy, if you're sad, cry it out. Don't be afraid, Yu is here. Mommy, cry if you're sad. Xiao Yichen will be with you too. Xiao Yichen hugged her waist, trying to warm her cold heart with the warmth of his body. Yin Shirshir bit down hard on her lips, refusing to show her weak side in front of the two little lads. Yu hugged Yin Shirshir tightly, but her eyes were frozen. How dare he bully his mommy? Damn it. He had committed a heinous crime. On the other side, Song Inya was sent to the hospital by Song Yunxi. When she returned home, she threw herself into Jiang Qiming's arms with an aggrieved look and bawled her eyes out. In the evening, Jiang Qiming made a call and reported Yin Shirshir's crime to Muyazha. By the time Muyazha received the call, he was already on his way home. Jiang Qiming, who was on the other end of the line, did not give him any face as she loudly reprimanded him. Yaja, I heard from Enya that you have a mistress named Yin Shirshir, right? That woman is really arrogant. Ever since Enya was young, I couldn't bear to let her get hurt, but look at what happened in the end. That Yin Shirshir is really capable. She actually dislocated Enya's arm. Tell me, is this appropriate? What do you mean? I don't understand. Muyazha was also annoyed by her random questioning. You're asking me what I mean? Why don't you go back and ask that be *tch yourself? Jiang Qiming continued to denounce him. Chapter 972. Just as he was feeling vexed, Jiang Qiming continued her tirade. Enya has always been the apple of the family's eye. She may be a little spoiled, but she's not a bad person by nature. How can a young girl like Yin Shirshir be so vicious as to break Enya's wrist? We're living in a civilized society now. How can there be such an unreasonable person? How can this be? Don't blame Sister Meng for not giving you face. No matter what, I must make that woman give the songs an explanation. I'll make her come to our house and apologize. Fortunately, it's only a dislocated wrist this time. If it's a broken bone, I'll definitely sue her and send her to jail. After that, the call was hung up. Muyazha's eyes were filled with anger as he tossed his phone aside. Why did such a thing happen when he wasn't around for a day? Enya's wrist was broken? Yin Shirshir broke it? What exactly happened? Muyazha was utterly vexed. Hence, when he reached home, he pushed open the door and walked in coldly. The living room was dark and empty. He then walked to the bedroom and saw Yin Shirshir lying on the bed. The lights were off in the room, and it was cold and quiet. Her body was curled up on the bed. He did not know if she was asleep or just lying there. However, despite such a big thing happening, she acted as if nothing had happened. He should at least ask about the whole thing. Why did she hurt Song Inya? Hence he spoke. Yin Shirshir. Yin Shirshir woke up abruptly and sat up on the bed. When she saw that he had returned, a smile appeared on her face. However, when she saw the cold and sullen look on his face, the smile on her face faded bit by bit. What exactly happened between you and Enya? I heard that you broke her wrist. Muyazha was the first to ask, but he asked such a question. Hence, Yin Shirshir's expression turned colder. He called her by her full name in a cold tone, but when he called Song Inya, he sounded so affectionate. What? What does this mean? What did that mean? Could it be that Song Inya had complained to him? Is he here to denounce me? She thought that no matter what happened, he would trust her unconditionally like she did. No matter what others said to him, he would calmly ask her what had happened. In the end, he was so angry the moment he came back, as if she was the heinous sinner. Was it her fault? Song Inya was the one who barged into her house and beat her up, so why was she the one being questioned? Was he not going to ask the Songs about what his niece had done to her? Yin Shirshir pursed her lips tightly and remained silent, stubbornly keeping her mouth shut. Her cold demeanor made it seem like she was angry with him. When Muyazha saw her indifferent expression, he became even angrier. What? Being stubborn even after doing something wrong? Let me ask you, why did you break her arm? What the hell happened? You're really protective of her. Yin Shirshir forced a smile and sighed. Even though her eyes were smiling, her heart was filled with an indescribable bitterness. Did your heart ache when you heard that she was hurt? That's why you came back so aggressively to denounce me, isn't it? She asked in a cryptic voice. All of a sudden, she was a little envious of Song Inya. Look, she was the one who was unreasonable first. She did something wrong and shed a few tears, and a group of people coaxed her. Chapter 973. It was so unfair. She sighed desolately in her heart. Muyaja heard her sarcastic tone, and frowned slightly. However, he heard her ask back with a smile. So? Do you want me to go over and kowtow to apologize? I heard her. Her Song family has power and influence. Do you want me to go to jail? People with a bit of power are really different. They can cover the sky with one hand. I'm really scared. How can a commoner like me fight with the dignified daughter of the Song family? He looked unhappy. He went forward and grabbed her chin. His cold eyes stared at her face. I'm asking you a question. Do you have to be so mean? Armed with a baton? Yin Shirshir had tears in her eyes, but she laughed. She held back her tears and pretended to be calm as she asked. Then what do you want me to do? I did break her hand, I did hit her, and I even slapped her. I even called her AB*TCH and shameless. You. Muyaja was so angry that he was at a loss for words. He couldn't help but use more strength in his hands. I'm just asking you what happened. Do you have to use such a tone? Yin Shirshir only felt that her chin was about to be dislocated by him. She felt even more wronged for a moment. Before she finished speaking, her tears fell and rolled down. They dripped on the back of his hand. It was frighteningly hot. A woman's mind was so delicate and sensitive. After such a thing happened, she was looking forward to him returning home to give her a warm hug and listen to her grievances. He didn't ask for justice for her. However, when he came back, he was so aggressive and said that he wanted to listen to her explanation. Haha. What was there to explain? Why did she have so many things to explain? Yin Shirshir bit her lips. Then, as if she had lost all her strength, her voice was hoarse and broken. Muyaja, what do you want me to do? Don't cry. He was so afraid that she would cry. Once she cried, he would be completely helpless. He told her not to cry, but her tears fell even more violently. Drop by drop, they rolled down like broken pearls. Liking you is such a tiring thing. You're so outstanding and unattainable. As for me, I'm so lowly, as low as dust. Muyaja, liking you is really tiring. She bit her red lips and turned her face away. She didn't want this man to see her sorry state. Muyaja reached out and wanted to hug her. But Yin Shirshir pushed him. She rolled and wrapped herself in the blanket, unwilling to be touched by him. She was clearly trying to avoid him. But would he allow her to escape? He walked over, lifted the blanket, and pulled her into his arms. Yin Shirshir, on the other hand, struggled like a madwoman and bellowed, "Don't touch me. Get away. Stop fooling around. Be good and listen to me." He held her tightly in his arms, not allowing her to struggle. He was so strong and domineering that he didn't give her any room to resist. When she calmed down, he hugged her even tighter and said in a deep voice, "Just now, I wasn't rational enough. Maybe things aren't what I thought. I came back not to convict you, but to listen to your explanation. So, you don't have to be so sarcastic with your words." Yin Shirshir remained silent, but the anxiety in her eyes eased a little. Chapter 974. If he trusted her more, he would not be like this. Would he believe everything that Song Inya said unconditionally? What about her, then? Would he listen to her explanation? Still, why did trust have to be built on an explanation? Muyaja did not know what was on her mind. Seeing her silence, he leaned close to her ear and said in a deep voice, "I don't care what conflict you have with Inya, but she's the mayor's daughter. She grew up being pampered like a spoiled princess, so it's inevitable that she's a little arrogant and willful, but she's not a bad person by nature. You're older than her, so you should give in to her a little. No matter who's right or wrong between the two of you, you should at least apologize for injuring her hand." Yin Shirshir's heart turned cold all of a sudden. She wiped away her tears forcefully. The grievances in her heart were like a turbulent wave that came crashing over like a mountain, completely engulfing her. She deserves it for having her hand broken, she said calmly, but her voice was cold. Muyaja's eyes turned cold. What? I said. She suddenly raised her head and met his cold gaze. She said word by word, she deserves it for having her hand broken. Shut up. He scolded her. He could not hide the anger on his face. His eyes were so cold that they seemed to freeze her to the bone. I'll give you 3 seconds to take back your words. Take back my words? Take back my words. Yin Shirshir looked at him in disbelief. He actually shouted at her for Song Inya's sake. The expression on his face was so fierce, and his eyes were like cold rays. It was not that Yin Shirshir was pretentious, but at this moment, she was a little doubtful. What kind of place did Song Inya occupy in his heart? Was it really just a cousin's relationship with his cousin? So much so that he came home in a rage without a word. It was obvious that he was here to denounce her. She said that she deserved it, but he actually asked her to take it back with such a bad attitude. Did he not think about it carefully? Was she such an unreasonable person? Yin Shirshir seemed to be against him. She refused to say anything. Her eyes were wide open, and tears were rolling in her eyes. However, she stubbornly refused to let them fall. Was this stupid woman trying to fight him head-on? Yin Shirshir, what's with your attitude? She was stunned for a moment, and almost lost her mind under that cold gaze. However, when she came back to her senses, she stubbornly raised her little face and said, "Why should I take back my words?" The man frowned. She felt wronged and angry. Her little hands gripped the bedsheets tightly, unwilling to give in. She deserved it. I take back my words. He interrupted her again. His words were cold and emotionless, so cold that it made people feel unfamiliar. Yin Shirshir's face was red with anger, and the bedsheets were crumpled in her hands. Muyaja, what right do you have to speak to me in such a tone? It's clearly not my fault. It's obviously. The long fingers pinching her chin exerted some force, and she gasped in pain. In the silent confrontation between the two, the coldness in the man's eyes became more and more dangerous. I won't repeat myself a third time. His voice became sterner, and his eyes became more sinister. Yin Shirshir, I don't have patience. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. She could no longer hold back her tears, and they rolled down. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. I thought you were a sensible woman, but I didn't expect you to be so unreasonable. Chapter 975. Yin Shirshir suddenly laughed miserably and curled her lips. I'm vicious, ignorant, and unreasonable. I'm such a woman. Have you just realized it now? Muyaja's gaze turned even colder. She suddenly broke free from his grip and said uncontrollably, Since you feel sorry for her, I'll return her hand that I hurt, okay? I'll return her injury to her, okay? However, she immediately walked to the wall, clenched her fist tightly, and smashed it hard on the wall. Bang! A loud sound was heard. It was heavy and powerful. Muyaja was startled. He got up abruptly, walked over to her side, and grabbed her hand abruptly. Looking down, he saw that her knuckles were red and swollen. Yin Shirshir, what are you doing? Muyaja was furious. This woman would rather hurt herself than give in to him. How could she be so stubborn? Do you have to be so stubborn? Muyaja's heart ached, and he was angry. However, when he lowered his head to look at her, he happened to see some strange marks on her shoulder. He stopped talking and pulled open her clothes. His fingers brushed aside her clothes, only to see that there were some bloody marks that seemed to have been made by fingernails. They weren't broken, but they left a deep bloody mark. What's going on? He asked. Yin Shirshir raised her hand and swatted his hand away. She slowly hugged her shoulder and squatted down. She was like a person drifting on the sea, welcoming the waves that kept crashing over, but there was no shore in sight. She felt helpless and hopeless. He leaned over and scooped her into his arms. Ignoring her struggles, he started to check on her. It wasn't just her shoulder. Her arms, elbows, knees, calves, waist. Every part of her skin that was exposed to the air had different degrees of scratches. Some of them were light and didn't break the skin. Some of them were heavy and broke the skin, and had been applied with medicine. However, he could vaguely imagine how pathetic she was before. Who did this? He asked angrily in a deep voice. Why were there so many injuries on her body? This clearly looked like it was caught by someone. When he thought of catching, he thought of women fighting. When men fought, it was mostly a confrontation of strength, but when women fought, it seemed a little crazy. If they didn't pull her hair, they would slap her face. If that wasn't enough, they would scratch her. She had seen how ruthless a woman could be when she threw a tantrum. The injuries on his body were obviously caused by a woman. Yin Shirshir lowered her head and ignored him. She snorted a few times, but did not make a sound. The man checked her from head to toe again. When she didn't speak, he lifted her chin and searched her face with his eyes. He quickly caught a glimpse of the unusual redness on her cheeks. On the little face buried in her hair, there were faint fingerprints. She had kept her head down the entire time, and if one did not look carefully, they would not have noticed it at all. The coldness in his eyes intensified, but his gaze fell on the corner of her lips, where he saw a deep cut. It was a shocking sight. In his eyes, women were fragile, like delicate flowers. If he wasn't careful, he would hurt her. After all, there was a great disparity in strength between men and women. Therefore, he had always been careful with her, afraid that he would hurt her even a little. However, now the woman he had always carefully protected was actually hurt by someone else. The coldness in his heart rose to the extreme and kept surging. Chapter 976. Connecting the dots to what had happened earlier, he could guess who had caused Yin Shirshir's injuries. Still, why didn't she say anything? Wuxia was a little annoyed. Why didn't she tell him that she was injured? Is it Enya's doing? Huh. He grabbed her chin, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Answer me. She pushed him away stubbornly, her tone cold and distant. What has it got to do with you? What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? He became even more furious and grabbed her little hand that was causing trouble. With a tug, her entire body fell into his embrace. You're not allowed to say that. Yin Shirshir sucked in a deep breath of cold air. She raised her head and glared at him with her reddened eyes. Fine. Didn't you want to ask? Then I'll tell you. Who else could it be other than Song Enya? She barged into our house for no reason with Lu Jingtian and a stranger. Without a word, she came up and slapped me. She even said something like, "Is the Song family someone I can afford to offend?" Even if she chopped off one of my hands, no one can do anything to her. On what basis? On what basis can she be so arrogant and trample on other people's dignity? Isn't it because her family is powerful and influential? She's a bully. Not only that, she even wanted me to kowtow and apologize to her. What a good kowtow and apologize. She's not my parents, so on what basis should I kneel to her? That's why we fought. I've told you everything. Are you satisfied now? Are you satisfied now? The last sentence was shouted out in a hoarse voice. His voice was hoarse, as if he was venting all of his strength. Wuxia was stunned. After shouting everything, Yin Shirshir panted for a moment to calm herself down. Pursing her lips, she said in a hoarse and trembling voice, "What can I do? Do I really have to kowtow to her? How lowly must I be to allow her to trample on my dignity?" The feeling of having one's dignity trampled on was worse than death. As she spoke, she curled herself into a ball and buried her face in his chest. She didn't want this man to see her at her most embarrassing moment. How nice would it be if he could find a quiet place to heal his wounds? The man hugged her. Through the thin material of her clothes, he could feel her hot breath, as well as the hot and wet traces. Don't cry. It was my fault just now. He bowed his head to her and admitted his fault. There was indeed a problem with his attitude just now. Thus he swallowed his pride and whispered an apology into her ear. Sorry. These 3 words were even more important than 1,000 pieces of gold. He was such a proud person. He was the heir of the Mu family and the future head of the family. He had always been the pride of the heavens. He had never lowered his head to anyone, nor had he ever apologized to anyone. However, this was the only time he had personally said these 3 words. It was also the only time that she had put down all her pride in front of someone. I didn't know the truth and got angry at you. It's my fault. Don't cry, or else my heart will ache. As she cried, his heart ached as well. He had never been patient with women, especially when it came to women's tears. However, as long as it was her tears, he couldn't do anything about it. Whenever she cried, his heart would soften and he would be utterly defeated. Yin Shishi's gaze shifted slightly. She felt that the 3 words sorry coming from this man's mouth was so unreal. Chapter 977. The anger and grievance that filled his heart instantly dissipated by more than half in the face of these 3 words that were filled with guilt and tenderness. Yin Shishi was a little angry with herself. Why was she so disappointing? She had originally planned to never forgive this man in this lifetime. However, when she heard those words, the hardest part of her heart instantly softened. Wuxia carried her to sit on the bed. He held her in his arms and was about to lift her clothes. She quickly stopped him. What are you doing? Be good, don't move. Let me see. Don't look. She rejected him righteously. However, would he really listen to her even if she rejected him? He did not allow her to say anything and lifted her skirt high up. However, the scene that entered his eyes made his eyes hurt. It turned out that the scratches were considered small. All he saw were bruises of various sizes on her fair and clean body. With one look, he knew that someone had ruthlessly pinched her. This woman's body was extremely sensitive. Usually it would show in bed. However, if he did not pay attention to the strength of his hands, he would leave marks. Therefore, he had always been very careful when dealing with her. He loved her fair and jade-like skin, but now it was unbelievably damaged. Wuxia's eyes became increasingly cold. He ran his fingers over the bruises, and she immediately gasped softly. It hurts. Yu and Xiaoyichen returned home after buying the medicine. They had just opened the bedroom door when they saw the scene. Yu's face turned red. She thought that her daddy and mommy were doing something embarrassing. However, when she took a closer look, it turned out that Wuxia was checking her injuries. Daddy, he called out. Then he walked over with his head lowered and handed him the medicine to reduce bruises and swelling. Mommy, does the wound still hurt that much? He turned his face and faced the wall. He did not look at her, but he asked with concern. Yin Shishi could not help but feel cold. At such a young age, he already knew the difference between men and women. It doesn't hurt anymore, Yin Shishi said. Yu pursed her lips. He had no idea what had happened, and his mother did not mention a word about it, either. If he were to find out the reason for Song Enya's visit, he would probably ignore him entirely. Did you just go to buy medicine? Wuxia asked. Yu and Xiaoyichen nodded. Have you eaten? No. I'll go get some food right away. Daddy, do you want to eat? No need. I've eaten. Yu nodded and glanced at Yin Shishi. Seeing that she had calmed down a little, she left the room with peace of mind. Wuxia picked up the ointment and applied it on his palm. He then carefully rubbed the wound, slowly and gently. Yin Shishi frowned in pain. It hurts. Bear with it. You'll recover faster after I apply the ointment. As Wuxia spoke, his movements became gentler as he applied the ointment and gently rubbed it. It was rare to see such a patient side of him. Yin Shishi's heart warmed slightly, but when she thought of the aggressive side of him when he came back, she could not help but feel angry again. She muttered, "Don't think that I'll forgive you just because of this." Wuxia raised a brow and glanced at her. He then increased the strength of his hand. Yin Shishi hissed in pain, and then glared at him angrily. Are you doing this on purpose? Be good. This woman was actually pushing her luck when he gave in a little. Chapter 978. After a moment of silence, she asked tentatively, Do you know that Song Enya likes you? Ha. Wuxia did not react at first. He raised a brow at first, but when he realized what she was asking, he fell silent. Do you know? She nudged him again when he did not reply. Only then did he reply, I know. You know. Yin Shishi was slightly surprised. It's not that kind of like. It's. I know what you're referring to. Wuxia frowned. Did this stupid woman think that he was as stupid as she was? Of course, he knew what Song Enya was thinking about him. Yin Shishi, on the other hand, was slightly stunned. Since he knew, why did he still have such a reaction? She snorted unhappily. There are so many women who like you. The man glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. It seemed that there were many men who were pestering her. However, when he caught a glimpse of the displeasure on her face, he suddenly smiled. Why? Are you jealous? Yin Shirshir bit her lip and did not answer. He could not help but increase the strength of his hand, deliberately hurting her and not allowing her to escape. Answer me. Yin Shirshir flew into a rage out of humiliation. Don't go overboard. She raised her head, only to see the man's handsome face quickly pressing down on hers. His thin lips covered hers and kissed away her sweet breath. He gently dotted her lips. Unlike the past, where he took her by force, he kissed her lips gently. He kissed her lips, then the corner of her lips where she was cut. Then he kissed her forehead, the tip of her nose, her cheeks, and finally landed on her lips. He went deeper and deeper. She shut her mouth tightly, not allowing him to invade her lips. However, he increased the strength of his hand. She opened her lips slightly in pain and sucked in a breath of cold air. He took advantage of the situation and entered, gently sweeping her. Somehow he wanted her. However, now was not the time. What she needed more now was rest. With this thought in mind, he fiercely suppressed the desire bursting out of his body. He lowered his eyes and extinguished the flame in his eyes. After applying the ointment on her wounds, he let her rest early. After experiencing the ridiculous war in the afternoon, she seemed to be exhausted. Once her head hit the pillow, she quickly fell asleep. After covering her with the blanket, he left the room. In the living room, Yin Tianyu had just finished cooking the fried rice. Seeing him come out, he immediately went forward to ask, "Daddy, how is Mommy?" "He's asleep." He reached out and gently stroked Yuyu's hair. "Be good. Don't disturb her. Let her sleep a little longer." "Yes." Yuyu suddenly frowned and asked, "Daddy, do you know what happened this afternoon?" "I have a general understanding." Recalling the scene he saw when he returned home this afternoon, a bone-chilling glint flashed across his eyes. "Who is she?" Muyaja saw the murderous look that flashed across his face. He knew in his heart that if he let him know who did it, he was afraid. This son of his appeared to be cultured and refined, like an elegant little gentleman, but when his reverse scale was touched, he would do crazy things. "You don't have to worry about this. I'll handle it," he said. He would let Song Inya apologize personally. Chapter 979. Yin Shirshir was his reverse scale, and anyone who touched her would be infuriated. Muyaja furrowed his brows slightly. This child was extremely stubborn in this aspect. In this aspect, he was very much like him when he was younger. However, it was undeniable that children were simple and stubborn, unlike adults who could consider all aspects. Still, when dealing with a matter, one could not be too extreme and unconventional. Xiao Yichen walked over as well. He looked at him and then at the man. Muyaja and Yuyu looked at each other, as if they were confronting each other. Yuyu clenched his fists and calmed the anger in his heart. Then he said in a low voice, "All right, I'll respect your decision this time. However, this is the only time. There won't be a next time. Consider it as giving daddy face. Good boy." With that, Muyaja slowly walked to the door. Xiao Yichen's eyes flickered slightly. "Daddy, aren't you staying here today?" "No," he replied faintly and left. It was late at night. The night sky was especially dark tonight. It was like an endless black curtain pressing down on the sky, just like Song Inya's heart at this moment. She lay in bed, tossing and turning. Her thoughts were in a mess, and she could not fall asleep no matter what. She took out her phone from time to time. Previously, she had sent several messages to Muyaja to complain about Yin Shirshir's crimes. However, after waiting for a long time, she still did not receive a response from Muyaja. She thought that he would immediately rush over and ask about her well-being after knowing that she was injured. However, she waited until late at night, but there was not a single call. It was inevitable that she felt deeply disappointed. She had a feeling that Muyaja was not as close to her as before. There was a faint estrangement and distance between them. She did not know what was going on. It must be that Yin Shirshir. Song Inya's heart was filled with resentment at the thought of that woman. She felt that she had been too lenient this afternoon, and should have broken one of her hands. Unable to vent her anger, she felt stifled in her chest, suffocating her. Song Inya was so angry that she sat up on the bed. She picked up the pillow beside her and ravaged it as if it were a certain hateful face. She pinched it viciously, but that was not enough to vent her anger. His phone suddenly rang. Annoyed, she looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Muyaja's name. She immediately picked up the phone happily. Song Inya picked up the call and pretended to sound sickly and weak. Hello, brother Mu? Inya, are you asleep? Muyaja's deep and magnetic voice came from the other end. No. My heart hurts and I can't sleep. Song Inya pretended to be on the verge of tears as if she had suffered a great grievance. She looked as if she was about to burst into tears, but she was secretly delighted because of Muyaja's call. Is your hand better? His voice was faint, sounding as if he was concerned but not concerned. Song Inya could not tell if he was concerned about her, so she grumbled. My hand was dislocated. It's been reattached, but it still hurts a lot. How is it painful? It's just a normal dislocation. It doesn't hurt at all. Still, she deliberately said that to make his heart ache. There was a sudden silence on the other end. The sudden silence made her anxious and uneasy. Song Inya said, Brother Mu, do you know? That Yin Shirshir is too much. She's simply. Chapter 980. Song Inya was stunned. She did not expect him to say such a thing. Ever since she was young, he had always been very indulgent toward her. Even when she did something wrong at times, he would not reprimand her. This was the first time he had been harsh with her. Brother Mu, what do you mean? She pouted and said in an unhappy tone. What do you mean by I went overboard? You know very well in your heart, don't you? He paused for a moment before his tone became heavier. What happened today made me very angry. I don't want it to happen again. Still, since you're young and insensible, I won't hold it against you. After all, I'm not your parents, so I have no obligation or responsibility to teach you a lesson. However, you must apologize to her personally. He deliberately emphasized the word personally, in a tone that brooked no argument. Song Inya was stunned. When she came back to her senses, her heart was throbbing with pain. She cried out indignantly, Why should I? Why should I apologize to her? I didn't do anything wrong. Don't you know very well whether you did anything wrong? His tone was unfriendly and did not give her any face. Instead, he said coldly, Song Inya, remember this. I indulge you, but it's not unconditional. Remember that there are some people you can't touch. His words were a little harsh. Song Inya was stunned. She did not expect Yin Shirshir to hold such an important place in his heart. This was the first time in her life that he had spoken so harshly to her. I won't hold it against you this time, but there won't be a next time. If I find out about it again. He did not continue speaking, giving her some leeway. With that, he hung up the phone. Song Inya's hand, which was holding the phone tightly, trembled violently. By the time she realized it, she had already smashed the phone to the ground. Why should she apologize? Why? Was he so protective of her? What did he mean by indulging her unconditionally? He was not like this in the past. Song Inya buried her face in her palms sadly. Hot tears dripped onto her hands as her whole body trembled. Naturally, she could not bring herself to apologize to Yin Shirshir personally. How arrogant was she? In the Song family, she had always been spoiled to the point that she was out of control. It was impossible for a person like her to bow down and apologize to a person, especially a commoner with no status or background. Because of this, every time she called Muyaja, she would be ruthlessly hung up. It seemed that he would ignore her until she personally apologized to Yin Shirshir. Song Inya was exasperated. But she refused to swallow her pride and apologize to Yin Shirshir. The scenes for Yin Xiachuan and Yin Dongyu were completed. Yin Shirshir received a notice and spent the next few days familiarizing herself with the score. Gu Xingze wrote a song to be used as the theme song for the movie, The Green Apple. It was a warm and sweet love song sung by a man and a woman. After Yin Shirshir familiarized herself with the score, she went to the recording studio to record a demo. Gu Xingze was not very satisfied with the first few demos that she recorded. He changed the score a few more times and recorded it a few more times before he was finally satisfied. As it was a theme song, there was no need to specially film a music video. He cut out a few beautifully produced scenes from the movie and recorded a scene of the chorus in the recording studio. Then he released it as a preview of the theme song online. Once the single was released, it quickly rose to the top of the charts. Chapter 981. The song was light, catchy, sweet, and warm. Soon it became popular. Many fans of the original novel were looking forward to the release of the movie after seeing the plot of the music video. The movie was initially scheduled to be released at the end of the year, during the primetime slot. As it was targeted at the student market, it would be released during the winter holidays. Lin Fengtian had high expectations for the box office. The initial optimistic prediction was that the box office would exceed 2 billion yuan. The schedule for the next few days was packed. The movie was about to be completed, and was about to come to an end. Next, the post-production began anxiously. The crew was already preparing to promote the movie before it was released. It seemed that in order to cater to the plot of the movie and promote the movie, Huanyu Entertainment intended to package Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir as a couple to hype up the movie. The so-called couple hype was the easiest way to make the headlines in the entertainment industry. It was a rather old-fashioned method. However, the public's desire for gossip was stronger. Hence, this method was tried and tested. Qin Zhou accepted several jobs for Yin Shirshir. Among them, there was a reality show called The Love Diary. It was a rather important draft. The Love Diary was a reality show produced by Qinguang Satellite TV with imaginary love as its selling point. In the program, popular celebrities formed a group of imaginary lovers and went on an imaginary date program. After a few episodes, it quickly became a popular first-tier reality TV show. Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir would be the second, imaginary lovers. Because it was Gu Xingze, they were given the spotlight as a pair of lovers. Of course, the so-called reality show actually had a script. After all, they had to create some gimmicks and suspense. Otherwise, where would the topic and viewership ratings come from? The filming of the show was initially scheduled for next month. Before that, the script would be sent to Yin Shirshir. When the time came, she would just have to follow the script and record. When Yin Shirshir heard that Qin Zhou had accepted this show for her, she was a little speechless. Qin Zhou glanced at her. Why? You don't want to? Shirshir, you have to be more careful. Many female celebrities want to film The Love Diary with Gu Xingze and ride on Gu Xingze's popularity. Hee. Then I'm really lucky, Shirshir said and stuck out her tongue. It's good that you know. Qin Zhou knocked on her head and said, I've been busy these past few days. There's an event tonight. What announcement? Starlight Quietness Distance. Perform well for me, Qin Zhou said as he took out a thin stack of scripts and handed it to her. This is the script. Take a look at it first. The script was filled with questions that the host would ask. She just had to memorize how to answer them. Starlight Quietness Distance was a well-known large-scale entertainment talk show. The lineup of hosts was also very luxurious. Among them, Lu Fei, who was the head of the lineup, was the top in the entertainment hosting field. He had a very deep foundation in hosting.